Chapter 41. The dust has settled. This is impossible. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. At the same time, the life in Duan Wui's eyes slowly faded away. However, before he died, he managed to sense the extremely terrifying aura around Yizan's body. He had only felt such power once while he was alive. That terrifying aura he had felt back then belonged to the master of the Xuanian sect. This guy had actually reached the Golden Core realm at the age of 20. All the cultivators in the Great Qian dynasty had been fooled. Such monstrous talent was unprecedented. Was the Xuanian sect really going to be destroyed at his hands? However, Duan Wui had no way of knowing what the future would be like. After all, those were his dying thoughts. Whoosh! Gusts of strong wind blew across the surroundings, sweeping up the dust on the ground. Not far away, Bajuluo witnessed this scene and his entire body stiffened. He looked at Yizan in shock. This guy dared to kill a cultivator from the Xuanian sect. Was he crazy? Everything will soon be settled. At this moment, Yu slowly raised the sword in her hand and said those words with a cold expression on her face. No, I don't want to die. Bajuluo's eyes were filled with fear. However, as a brilliant sword gleam flashed by, Bajuluo's head was separated from his body. Before his last shred of consciousness dissipated, Bajuluo seemed to recall the people who had died at his hands. They stood quietly at the end of a dark tunnel, staring at him calmly. Hoo-hoo. The strong wind in the surroundings grew stronger and stronger. The bangs on her forehead were pushed behind her ears. Her clothes, which were stained with fresh blood, fluttered in the wind. Yu, who was holding her sword in her hand, was in a daze. Everything was over. She had avenged all the villagers of Linxi village. Her parents, Grandpa village chief, Aunt Wang, as well as the rest of the villagers of Linxi village, their deaths had finally been avenged. However, the moment she killed Bajuluo, her entire body crumpled to the ground, and she felt lost. Yu's vision blurred. She, who had slaughtered the bandits without displaying the slightest change of expression, was now sobbing on the ground. As she held her sword in her hand and half knelt on the ground, the faces of her family from all those years ago kept appearing in her mind. Yu, sister Yu, little Yu, Yu seemed to see those familiar faces waving at her. Those naughty children of Linxi village were playing with each other. Her old father had just returned from chopping firewood on the mountain, and her mother was washing clothes by the river. Clatter. At this moment, the dark clouds in the sky were emitting flashes of light, as thunder rumbled in the skies above. Raindrops started falling, painting a stark scene of dreary death. At the same time, the illusion in Yu's mind suddenly faded. A large and warm hand patiently rubbed her head. Teacher. Yu's body trembled. She could no longer suppress the sadness in her heart. She suddenly turned around and hugged Yizan. The hatred, pressure, and heartache that had been suppressed deeply in her heart over the past 2 years bubbled forth at this moment. She had finally taken revenge personally for the deaths of the almost 3,000 people of Linxi village. Back then, she often thought about her identity as the only survivor of Linxi village. Her one and only goal in life was to take revenge on those bandits, and she felt incomparable pressure because of it. Were it not for the hatred and desire for revenge in her heart, she would not have been able to persevere in the Qingyan sect. She had once thought that if she really managed to take revenge for Linxi village in the future, then she would be able to die without regrets. Linxi village had not only been her hometown, but also her entire world. When the villagers of Linxi village fell at the hands of the bandits, her world collapsed. However, things were now different. She had a teacher. Yizan's appearance was like a candle, lighting up her dark life. Where her teacher was, there was her world. Yizan gently patted Yu's head and transmitted a trace of gentle power into her body to calm her restless emotions. A moment later, Yu calmed down. Teacher, I want to go back to Linxi village to take a look. Yu wiped the tears on her face and said to Yizan. Okay. Yizan nodded gently, and then brought Yu over to Huangling and Shui Min. The very next second, Yizan waved his sleeve, and an extremely pure power enveloped them as they flew away. After Yizan and the others left, the sky rumbled with the sound of thunder, and a torrent of rain fell. It was like an outpouring of rain from the 9 heavens. It washed away all of the blood on the ground. The rescued villagers prostrated themselves. Thank you, benefactor, for saving our lives. Thank you, benefactor, for saving our lives. The villagers ignored the falling rain as they knelt in the direction where Yizan and the others had left. Their eyes were filled with gratitude. The boy whose parents had died in the hands of the bandits wiped the tears from his cheeks and kowtowed heavily in the same direction. Linchi Village. The village that had once been filled with laughter and happiness was now a shadow of its former self. Walls were broken everywhere, which were covered with spider webs, and the villagers' furniture had long become moldy. The houses were also filled with rainwater, which passed through the ruined roofs. The weeds in the village were as tall as an adult's waist. Thunder continued to rumble as the dense clouds dispensed rain over the surrounding area. Yu quietly looked at the ruined village, her memories overlapping with the scene in front of her. She looked absent-minded as she slowly walked through the village. No matter how heavy the rain was, she toiled to find the villagers' bones and remains amidst the storm, and buried them. After spending half a day, Yu finally buried the villagers and her mother's bones in the village. Then, she went to the Netherworld forest to look for her father's bones. After doing all this, Yu erected a memorial monument in their honor. Then, Yu slowly walked over to the grave of her parents and tearfully knelt down. The rain slowly dripped onto her face, intermingling with her tears. In Yu's mind's eye, she could still see and hear her parents' cheerful laughter. She could not help but immerse herself into the memories of the past. Yu, sitting by her bedside, in a slightly dim room, her mother looked at her dotingly. Yu, remember to forget. You must live on. As long as you can live a safe and happy life, father and mother will have no regrets. As her words trailed off, the candle flame that dimly lit up the room was extinguished. Yu stayed in front of her parents' grave for a long time. Suddenly, a bright smile appeared on Yu's face. Then, she kowtowed in front of her parents' tombstones again. Father, mother, you don't have to worry. You will definitely continue to be happy. Because Yu has met the best teacher in the world. The rainstorm came and went. After Yu paid her respects to her parents, the dark clouds in the sky slowly dissipated. However, Yu's clothes had been soaked in the rain, and they clung tightly to her body. Since Yu's cultivation had already reached the 5th level of the True Essence realm, she used the True Essence power in her body to evaporate the moisture from her clothes. Alright, let's go to Zhongqing City. Chapter 42. The Furious Li Wuji. Yi Zan stretched out his hand and made a sweeping gesture with his hand. An incomparably huge demonic beast suddenly appeared from the void. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. This was the blazing plume that he had obtained from the system's feedback reward. The blazing plume's grade had reached level 5, and its strength was comparable to a core formation realm cultivator. Yi Zan also examined the blazing plume's strength briefly. This demonic beast's strength had reached the middle stage of the core formation realm. Its feathers were red, and the crown on its head was suffused with powerful fire elemental power. The blazing plume's claws were incomparably sharp, and its entire body was large enough to carry 7 or 8 cultivators. Could this be Elder Yi's new mount? Huang Ling and Shui Min, who were beside him, were shocked by the appearance of the blazing plume. They felt an overwhelmingly powerful spiritual pressure from this demonic beast. It was almost comparable to those elders of the Qingyan sect. Elder Yi's mount was already a level 5 demon beast. From that, one could imagine just how powerful he was. It seemed like their speculations about Yi Zan back then were very likely to be true. Thinking this, the two could not help but look at each other. They saw the implied meaning in each other's eyes. Elder Yi Zan's strength had definitely surpassed the core formation realm. Moreover, there was a very high possibility that he was already a golden core realm cultivator. Even the leader of the Qingyan sect did not possess such strength. Did this mean that Elder Yi Zan was already stronger than the leader? If the imperial family of the Great Qian dynasty knew of Elder Yi Zan's strength, perhaps the ranking and evaluation of the Qingyan sect would also be raised. Most importantly, Elder Yi Zan was only 20 years old. It seemed that Elder Yi Zan's title as the strongest genius in the past 1,000 years of the Qingyan sect needed to be changed. It was probably more apt to call him the strongest genius since the founding of the Qingyan sect now. If Yi Zan was a genius from another sect, Huang Ling and Shui Min would have definitely felt immense pressure, but he was an elder of the Qingyan sect, so they only felt excitement at this revelation. At this moment, Yi Zan did not know about what his two fangirls were thinking. Instead, he waved his hand with a calm expression, and the surging spiritual power in his body flooded out, enveloping blazing plume, as well as Yu and the others, inside. It isolated them from the scattered raindrops outside. Let's go, Yi Zan said, and then got on top of the blazing plume. Yu and the others saw this and quickly followed suit. Screech. The blazing plume flapped its huge wings, and then flew toward Zhongqing City. The Xuanian sect. As the second-ranked sect in the Great Qian dynasty, the Xuanian sect had 20 elders, and each elder had their own independent palace. At this moment, an angry voice could be heard from the palace of one of the elders. Damn it! Who was it? A white-haired old man with a beard could be seen inside. A furious expression was on his face, and powerful spiritual power fluctuations were gushing out of his body. If he had not hung on to the last bit of rationality left in his mind, this magnificent palace would have been turned into dust in an instant. Who had the guts to kill my disciple? The old man's pupils were filled with anger, and his long beard quivered. This old man was the 9th elder of the Xuanian sect, Li Wuji. In less than 3 days, 2 of his disciples had died, and they were his 2 most valued disciples too, Duan Wuji and Duan Wui. In order to prevent any accidents from happening while they were out on assignment training, he had given both of them a trump card to protect their lives. They would be able to escape unscathed even if they were faced with a peak-level core formation realm cultivator. Even if they did encounter a core formation realm, who would dare to offend them once their identities were revealed? Yet their soul lamps had been extinguished. Someone who was able to kill his disciples even though they had their trump cards would at least be in the 9th or 10th level of the purple spirit realm. In the entire Great Qian dynasty, someone capable of killing his personal disciples without fearing the Xuanian sect. Could it be that the Qian Gate has made a move? Thinking this, Li Wuji's expression changed. The Qian Gate was the number 1 sect in the Great Qian dynasty. One could already tell the relationship between the Qian Gate and the Great Qian dynasty from its name. The leaders of the top sects all knew that the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty stood behind the Qian Gate. When the Great Qian dynasty was established, so was the Qian Gate. The two had a common history on this continent, and the latter had always been the number 1 top sect in the Great Qian dynasty. Even after thousands of years, the Qian Gate remained in the same spot. This was the terrifying power of the Great Qian dynasty. It was also because of this that, even though the Xuanian sect wanted to collect the power of Qi and blood essence, they could only do so in secret without letting the Great Qian dynasty know. Come here. Li Wuji took a deep breath and calmed himself. This subordinate greets Elder Li. As soon as he called out, a black-robed cultivator hurried in and bowed to Li Wuji respectfully. This cultivator was the supervisor of the Xuanian sect, and he was responsible for handling the elders' matters. I want you to find the Duan Wuji and Duan Wui's murderer at all costs. Li Wuji said with a cold expression. Yes, Elder Li. The black-robed cultivator nodded and disappeared in a flash of black light. At the same time, the gates of the palace were shut tight, and Li Wuji sat on the throne with his legs crossed, his expression uncertain. If the murderer was really someone from the Great Qian dynasty or the Qian Gate, he would have to swallow this humiliation. However, if it was another sect, then they would have to face the terrifying anger of the Xuanian sect. Someone who dared to kill the personal disciples of an elder of the Xuanian sect obviously did not care about the Xuanian sect. Brother Li. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out in the grand hall. At the same time, an invisible force pushed open the gates of the palace, and a white-haired old man walked in with his hands behind his back. This old man was the 8th elder, Ji Yu Da. Brother Ji Yu, what's the matter? Seeing this, Li Wuji could not help but ask. It's related to Yi Zan. Ji Yu Da looked at Li Wuji with a strange expression. Chapter 43. Yi Zan is still alive. Yi Zan. Li Wuji squinted his eyes as his gaze fell on Ji Yu Da. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. As the Qingyan sect looking for revenge because of Yi Zan's death? No. Hearing this, Ji Yu Da shook his head. That's true. How could a mere Qingyan sect become our enemies for Yi Zan's sake? Li Wuji smiled indifferently. Qingyan sect's ranking was far lower than the Xuanian sect, and its overall strength lagged behind theirs as well. How could they have the courage to challenge the Xuanian sect? Even if the Qingyan sect wanted to investigate Yi Zan's matter, they could simply say that there were many cultivators fighting for the 7-colored Chaos Lotus at that time, and that it was inevitable that some casualties would occur. Since ancient times, treasures were obtained by those capable of obtaining them. If they possessed sufficient strength, they would naturally obtain these treasures. If they did not have the strength, then they could only blame themselves. Even though Yi Zan was surrounded and poisoned, it could be explained away as an accident, and it simply meant that the other party did not possess the strength to fight for these treasures. If the Qingyan sect really wanted to pursue the matter, the only viable method of resolution was to send one representative to duel the representative of the Xuanian sect in the arena. However, the overall strength of the Xuanian sect far surpassed that of the Qingyan sect. Every Xuanian sect elder was no weaker than the Qingyan sect elders, only stronger. Whether it was a one-on-one or a group battle, the Xuanian sect was not afraid at all. The Qingyan sect isn't looking for revenge, but that's because I have received news that Yizan is very likely to be fine. He is still alive. Ji Yuda looked at Li Wuji and said slowly. What? That guy is still alive? Seeing this, Li Wuji's facial expression changed, and his eyes were full of disbelief. That guy had been poisoned so deeply that his meridians and dantian had been damaged. How could he survive? I'm not sure either, but my men recently spotted him riding a firebird and leaving the Qingyan sect. Ji Yuda took a deep breath as he said all this with a solemn expression. Impossible. That guy was poisoned by the 5 poisons powder. How could he have survived? Li Wuji said doubtfully. The 5 poisons powder was not an ordinary poison. It was a top-tier poison refined by a top-tier 4th-grade poison master. In terms of lethality, it was almost as strong as a 5th-grade poison. The most crucial point here was that the core ingredient of the 5 poison powder was the poisonous liquid from the mouth of a level 6 demonic beast. The so-called poison master could be considered a type of alchemist. However, the pills and concoctions refined by poison masters were all highly toxic items. They were not like alchemists who refined medicinal pills. This fellow is only a mid-stage core formation realm cultivator. How could he possibly resist 5 poison powder? Moreover, he was seriously injured at that time. Normally, other than a 6th-grade alchemist or pill king, no one can cure or treat the 5 poisons powder. For a moment, Li Wuji's eyes were filled with disbelief. How could a mere Qingyan sect have the connections or resources to hire a 6th-grade alchemist? It was also unlikely that Yizan had the good fortune to stumble upon one. I can't guarantee it either, but there are still many witnesses other than my men. But, based on the information I have on hand, there is a very high possibility that Yizan is still alive. Ji Yuda said. When he had learned the news earlier, his face had also been full of disbelief. Yizan, who had been deeply poisoned by the 5 poisons powder, should have died long ago, and his corpse should have rotted away. This matter cannot be taken lightly. We must determine whether he is alive or dead. If the strongest genius of the Qingyan sect in 1,000 years has really fallen, the remaining few old fellows there will not be able to stop our Xuanian sect's plans. But if Yizan is really still alive, then the Xuanian sect will be in trouble. Li Wuji scratched his chin and fell into a state of deep thought, his face full of solemnity. Ji Yuda would never joke with him about such an important matter. Although Yizan might not be alive, he had to consider the possibility of this news being true. If Yizan really had such monstrous luck, perhaps he could really resolve the 5 poisons powder. Most importantly, not only was Yizan the strongest genius of the Qingyan sect in the past 1,000 years, he was also the strongest genius among the younger generation of cultivators of the Great Qian dynasty. He was someone worthy of their attention. Facing such a monstrous talent, it was only normal for them to be somewhat flustered. There's no need to rush. Ji Yuda stroked his beard and said with a smile. Brother Ji Yu, what do you mean? Li Wuji frowned. We both know the terrifying lethality of the 5 poisons powder. Even if Yizan was lucky enough to survive, it would have caused irreparable damage to his cultivation foundation. Now, let alone whether he can increase his cultivation level, it's even hard to say whether he can maintain his original cultivation. Ji Yuda replied confidently. When he learned that Yizan was still alive, he had indeed been shocked, but when he remembered the lethality of the 5 poisons powder, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. The 5 poisons powder was so deadly that, even if Yizan was lucky enough to neutralize the poison, its sequelae would definitely cause permanent damage to his cultivation. Ha ha ha, I was indeed too anxious. Many thanks for Brother Gu's reminder. The 5 poisons powder is not only known for its lethality. The after effects of being poisoned by it are nigh incurable. Hearing this, Li Wuji's tightly furrowed brows slowly relaxed. It's a pity that no one killed such a genius with their own hands. Given Yizan's monstrous talent, the qi and blood essence contained in his body must be very rich. What a pity. At that moment, Li Wuji could not help but recall the time when he fought for the 7-colored Chaos Lotus. Many elders of the Xuanian sect had joined hands and killed a core formation realm cultivator while the other experts were fighting for the treasure. They had absorbed his qi and blood essence into the bloodstone. The qi and blood essence contained in the body of a core formation realm cultivator had been beyond their imagination. The greedy elders then set their eyes on Yizan. Of course, the most important reason for this was that the seven-colored Chaos Lotus had fallen into Yi Zan's hands. In addition, Yi Zan's talent was too monstrous. If he was allowed to grow and develop, it was very likely that he would become a threat to the Xuanyan sect. Moreover, at that time, the leader of the Qingyan sect and the other elders were already being tied down elsewhere. No matter how strong Yi Zan was, he was not a match for the combined efforts of these elders. They would definitely be able to kill him within a short period of time. However, what made them feel rather regret was that when the elders of the Qingyan sect saw that Yi Zan was in danger, they threw aside their opponents at the cost of incurring injuries and directly gave up the fight for the seven-colored Chaos Lotus in order to save Yi Zan. Chapter 44. The Chen Family and Mad Saber Sect. If Yi Zan is really alive, it's impossible for him to reveal himself openly. Moreover, there's a high possibility that he's secretly planning to take revenge on our Xuanyan. At this moment, Ji Yu Da spoke up again. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So That's right. It seems that it's necessary for us to. Hearing this, Li Wuji nodded in agreement. However, the next second, his expression changed drastically. If Yi Zan was really alive, he would definitely think up ways to take revenge on the Xuanyan sect. Yi Zan's current strength would definitely not be able to return to its previous peak, and the Qingyan sect's strength could not be compared to the Xuanyan sect's, so the other party would definitely not choose to take revenge openly. As such, how would he take revenge on the Xuanyan sect? The only method was to eradicate the fundamental foundation of the Xuanyan sect. It was obvious that the best choice was to eliminate the talented cultivators of the Xuanyan sect. Damn it. Thinking this, Li Wuji retracted his gaze, his face alternating between shades of purple and green. He suddenly understood why Duan Wuji and Duan Wui had fallen. Given the strength of the Qian Gate, it was impossible that they would target the personal disciples of the elders of the Xuanyan sect. Moreover, if the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty learned that they were collecting qi and blood essence, this matter would not have ended with the mere death of two personal disciples. Other than the Qian Gate and the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty, the other top sects did not dare to offend the Xuanyan sect. However, the Qingyan sect was different. If Yi Zan had survived, then the murderer who killed Duan Wuji and Duan Wui was very likely to be Yi Zan. This guy was taking revenge on the Xuanyan sect. Although Yi Zan's strength would indeed regress, it was impossible for him to regress below the core formation realm. A core formation realm cultivator would easily be able to kill a true essence realm personal disciple. Damn it. We have to confirm whether Yi Zan is still alive or not as soon as possible. If this guy is still alive, my two disciples very likely died at his hands. Not only that, the lives of our other genius cultivators are also in danger. Li Wuji looked at Ji Yu Da with a serious expression. Ji Yu Da's expression changed greatly when he heard this. He had indeed overlooked this serious problem. I will order the genius cultivators who are training outside to return to the sect as soon as possible. Moreover, if Yi Zan is really alive, we definitely can't let him find out that the Xuanyan sect is collecting qi and blood essence. At that moment, Li Wuji and Ji Yu Da's expressions were extremely solemn. The situation was more serious than they had initially thought. If Yi Zan discovered that they were collecting qi and blood essence, he would definitely report this to the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty in order to take revenge. At that time, the Xuanyan sect would have to bear the fury of the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty and the Qian Gate. These two figures suddenly turned into two streams of light and disappeared into the distance. At the same time, the elders of the Xuanyan sect emerged from their palaces in full force. It could be said that Li Wuji had learned who the real murderer was by accident. However, what he did not know was that, not only did Yi Zan's strength not regress, but he had also broken through to the Golden Core realm, and could kill him easily with a wave of his hand. Most importantly, Yi Zan did know that the Xuanyan sect was collecting qi and blood essence. It was just that he did not intend to tell the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty about it. Instead, he wanted to purge the Xuanyan sect himself. Yi Zan knew very well that even if the royal family of the Great Qian dynasty knew about this, in order to maintain the balance of power between the other top sects, they would not directly destroy the Xuanyan sect. Just as Li Wuji, Ji Yu Da, and the others were making their move, Yi Zan had already arrived at Zhongqing City with the others. His purpose here was also very simple. He came here to examine Li Qingyan's character and see if she had the qualifications to become his disciple. Of course, Yi Zan was not in a hurry to do this. Instead, he chose to bring Yu and the others to an inn in the city to stay, and then chose to secretly observe Li Qingyan's behavior. Other than that, He was also thinking of inquiring about other people's evaluations of Li Qingyan in the city. After all, Li Qingyan was the eldest daughter of the Li family, which was the strongest family in Zhongqing City. The people of Zhongqing City would certainly be familiar with her. In a luxuriously decorated restaurant, Yi Zan was seated quietly in a private room as he listened to the conversations of the cultivators in the restaurant with a calm expression. I heard that Chen Ping of the Chen family successfully joined the Mad Saber sect and became the personal disciple of the sect master. I wonder if this news is true. Brother, your news is too outdated. This matter has long spread throughout the whole of Zhongqing City. Oh my god, isn't the Chen family going to rise up then? With the Mad Saber sect as their backer, I'm afraid that they will soon become the strongest family in Zhongqing City. Not only will they become the strongest family, but I don't think there will be 3 big families in Zhongqing City in the future. I'm afraid that the Li and Zhu families are doomed. There's nothing we can do about it. The sect master of the Mad Saber sect is a top-notch expert at the early stage of the virtual core realm. With the Chen family under his protection, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for the Chen family to become the strongest family in Zhongqing City? I've heard of the core formation realm, but what's the virtual core realm? Brother, you should know that the core formation realm is divided into 3 realms. From low to high, they are the virtual core realm, the true core realm, and the gold core realm. The king of our great Qian dynasty is a super expert at the gold core realm. I didn't expect that the core formation realm was further divided into 3 realms. Does that mean that the leader of the Mad Saber sect is only slightly weaker than our king by 2 realms? I guess you can say that. Sigh, let alone the core formation realm. If I have the chance to step into the true essence realm in my lifetime, my ancestors would rise from their graves. How could I dare to aim for the invincible core formation realm? However, the Li family is indeed quite unlucky. The leader of the Li family finally killed that demonic beast, but he was ambushed by his enemies on the way back. It is said that the leader of the Li family's injuries are extremely serious. If he wants to fully recover from his injuries, he will have to pay a huge price. Exactly. In order to heal her father's injuries, the young miss of the Li family traveled thousands of miles to Zhaohe City for their auction to buy healing medicine. I wonder if she managed to buy anything useful. Isn't it obvious? When they came back, they looked like they were in a daze. They definitely didn't get anything. Whether Li Zhengyang's injuries recover or not, the ending of the Li family is already set in stone. No, the Li family still has a chance of survival. What chance of survival? It's very simple. A marriage alliance with the Chen family. What? A marriage alliance? That's right. The young master of the Chen family, Chen Ping, has long admired Li Qingyan. Unfortunately, Li Qingyan doesn't like Chen Ping, so it's been unrequited love on his part all this time. But now, if the Li family wants to survive in Zhongqing City, they can only choose to marry her off to the Chen family. Chapter 45. Dilemma. Over the past 2 days, Yi Zan visited every corner of Zhongqing City. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. By disguising himself as a customer in a tea house, or a common person in the market, he had pretty much figured out the situation in Zhongqing City. There were 3 big families in the city, namely the Li family, the Chen family, and the Zhu family. Among these 3 big families, the Li family was the most powerful. Even if the Chen family and the Zhu family collaborated, they could barely resist the Li family. The most crucial reason behind this was that the head of the Li family, Li Zhengyang, had reached the 7th level of the Purple Spirit Realm. In contrast, the heads of the Chen and Zhu families had only reached the 6th level of the Purple Spirit Realm. As everyone knew, once a cultivator entered the Purple Spirit Realm, the gap between each minor realm was huge. Although it was not as exaggerated as the core formation realm, it was not something that lower-level cultivators could deal with. Under normal circumstances, 2 6th-level Purple Spirit Realm cultivators working together would be able to barely fight against a 7th-level Purple Spirit Realm cultivator. In addition, Li Zhengyang had reached the peak of the 7th level. It was due to this that the Li family had become the most powerful family in Zhongqing City. However, Li Zhengyang had been surrounded by his enemies and heavily injured. This was undoubtedly the best chance for the Chen and Zhu families to deal with him. The 2 families had planned to join forces and directly eliminate the Li family. However, at the critical moment, no one expected that the young master of the Chen family, Chen Ping, to actually successfully join the Mad Saber sect and become the sect master's personal disciple. Now that they had the core formation realm cultivator as their backer, there was no longer any reason for the Chen family to join forces with the Zhu family. They decisively abandoned the Zhu family and planned to use the power of the Mad Saber sect to directly eliminate the Zhu and Li families, thereby becoming the most powerful family in Zhongqing City. Faced with an extremely powerful core formation realm cultivator, what awaited the Li and Zhu families was destruction. Rumor had it that the Mad Saber sect's master would arrive in Zhongqing City in 2 days. Okay, now that I've figured out the basic situation, it's time to visit the Li family. Yi Zan slowly put down his wine cup, after which his figure suddenly disappeared from the restaurant without even causing the slightest movement. Young Master Yi, the braised beef you ordered is here. Why don't I see anyone here? By the time the waiter brought over the braised beef made from the second-level demonic beast, Red Bull, Yi Zan had already disappeared. You're so generous, young master. Please come again next time. The waiter looked at the bright gold coin on the table and could not help but smile. He immediately expressed his gratitude with an apologetic smile. For this young Master Yi to be able to leave a closed room without making a sound, he had to be a powerful cultivator. Throughout these 2 days, Yi Zan had not only figured out the situation in Zhongqing City, but he had also gained a good understanding of Li Qingyan's character. Although the Li family was the strongest family in Zhongqing City, their reputation was excellent. They did not bully others with their power. Instead, they treated others with respect. Other than that, they also set up a place to provide welfare relief to people in need. This place was under Li Qingyan's management. Although many cultivators praised Li Qingyan's character, they could not change the fate of the Li family. As such, they could only sigh in their hearts. In Yi Zan's eyes, kindness and talent were not the most important things when it came to accepting disciples. The most important thing was loyalty. He hated people who were fickle and ungrateful the most. After all, with the system's feedback rewards, he was not the sole beneficiary. His disciples would also receive huge benefits. Based on these 2 days of observation, Yi Zan had already approved of Li Qingyan from the bottom of his heart. Zhongqing City, the Li family's residence. In the Li family's hall. Now there's only one way out for us. Why are you still hesitating? I don't want to sacrifice Qingyan's happiness either, but for the sake of the thousands of people in our Li family, and the future of the Li family, we have to marry Qingyan to Chen Ping. Family head, why are you still hesitating? The first elder's gaze fell on Li Zhengyang. I naturally know this. Li Zhengyang, who was seated in the foremost position in the hall, looked extremely pale, and his aura was extremely weak. However, he still raised his head and interrupted the great elder's words. Regarding the survival of the Li family, I have my own considerations. Everyone, stop discussing this matter further. Everyone can leave. Li Zhengyang raised his head and looked at the elders as he said those words. Family head, we do not have much time left. You must not be muddle-headed. Before he left, the first elder looked deeply at Li Zhengyang meaningfully. When Li Zhengyang heard this, he narrowed his eyes. A cold gleam flashed across his eyes. When the first elder saw this, he could not help but pause. He sighed helplessly and turned to leave. He naturally knew that this was undoubtedly a great humiliation for the Li family. Even if they could ensure the Li family's survival through marriage, the Li family would not be able to raise their head in front of others in the future. However, they had no other options. Were they really going to watch thousands of Li family members die in vain? The strong preyed on the weak in the Tianyuan continent. The fights between the big families were extremely cruel. No one would pity you just because you were weak. What was even more cruel was that, the weaker you were, the more people wanted to bully you. The Li family was indeed very strong previously, but with Li Zhengyang heavily injured and Chen Ping joining the Mad Saber sect, the situation surrounding the Li family was now extremely dire. The Chen family's wild ambitions had been completely exposed. It was obvious that they wanted to use the power of the Mad Saber sect to completely eliminate the Li family. Previously, the two families were often in conflict. Although the Li family was extremely powerful, they were unable to completely suppress the Chen family. Moreover, because the Li family was too powerful, the Chen family and the Zhu family usually formed an alliance. Hence, they could do nothing about either one. However, as time passed, the grudges between the Chen family and the Li family had piled up. Now that the Chen family had a core formation realm cultivator as their backer, there was no way they would be lenient to the Li family. The Li family only had two choices left. First, the Li family could leave Zhongqing City. However, the Li family had been rooted in Zhongqing City for hundreds of years, and their family's properties and assets were all in Zhongqing City. How could they bear to move out of Zhongqing City so easily? Moreover, if the Li family really wanted to leave Zhongqing City, the Chen family would not let them leave easily. Most importantly, how could the rulers and families of other cities allow the Li family to move in? Chapter 46. It would be great if I could become his disciple. The second choice was to marry Li Qingyan into the Chen family. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. However, if they made such a choice, the Li family would become a subsidiary of the Chen family. As long as the Mad Saber sect was the backing of the Chen family, the Li family would never be able to rise again. Although such a choice was indeed shameful, the Li family had no better way out. As everyone knew, Chen Ping greatly admired Li Qingyan, but the latter was not interested in the former. Most importantly, because of some of Chen Ping's actions, Li Qingyan actually disliked him. Li Zhengyang was also very much against it at the beginning. First of all, his own daughter hated Chen Ping very much. Secondly, he also did not like Chen Ping's character. This guy was a true playboy. He loafed around all day, and was constantly on the prowl for girls. How could he let his daughter be sullied by this piece of cow dung? Was the leader of the Mad Saber sect blind? How could he accept such a bastard as his disciple? Sigh. Li Zhengyang sat alone in the hall. Looking at the empty hall in front of him, he sighed deeply. The first elder was right. He could not be so selfish. Besides being a father, he was also the head of the Li family. He had to think about the future of the Li family. Then, Li Zhengyang walked out with a pale face. As soon as he stepped out of the hall, he saw Li Qingyan walking toward him. Qingyan. Li Zhengyang took a deep breath and a smile appeared on his pale face. Father. Seeing this, Li Qingyan also smiled. Seeing this scene, Li Zhengyang's heart ached. His daughter's smile was too precious, and he was really unwilling to let things end this way. The family council has already. Li Zhengyang looked at his darling daughter, but he still could not bring himself to say the words out loud. Father, I understand, and I have already thought it through. Although I really hate his character, for the sake of our Li family, I will. Li Qingyan looked at her pale father. She originally wanted to convince him that she was all right with this, but she could not hold herself back. Her eyes suddenly turned red, and tears filled her eyes. If possible, she really did not want to marry that playboy who was always looking for women. However, she was no longer a willful child. After her mother passed away, Li Qingyan became very mature and took up many of the family's responsibilities. Moreover, Li Qingyan was very clear in her heart that the law of the jungle reigned supreme on the Tianyuan continent. The weak were destined to suffer in silence. Originally, Li Qingyan would rather die than marry Chen Ping. However, if she died, then what would happen to the thousands of people in the Li family? They would definitely be buried with her. A few days ago, the second elder had brought this brother and sister pair to Zhaohe City to bid for the soul returning pill. Unfortunately, the soul returning pill ultimately fell into the hands of the deputy leader of the Shadow Tower, Lin Yu. At that time, Li Qingyan deliberately stayed a few days longer there to see if she could find some healing medication in the smaller scale auctions held there. Unfortunately, things backfired and she did not get what she wanted. After all, the soul returning pill was a top-tier third-grade pill. Even cultivators who had reached the core formation realm could hardly bear to use it. How would it be possible for one to appear frequently in Zhaohe City's auctions? However, without the soul returning pill, her father's injuries would not be able to recover. In fact, even if she did manage to obtain the soul returning pill, it would not be able to change the current situation of the Li family. After all, in front of a core formation realm cultivator, even if Li Zhengyang's cultivation had reached the 10th level of purple spirit realm, he would still be instantly killed. There was simply no way for him to resist a core formation realm cultivator. Father, you don't have to say it. I know what needs to be done. Li Qingyan turned around and tried her best not to cry. However, her delicate body could not help but tremble slightly. Sigh. When Li Zhengyang saw this, he opened his mouth but did not know what to say. He could only sigh deeply. He clenched his fist so tightly that his nails dug into his palm. This only happened because he was useless. If he was a little stronger, the Li family would not be in such a grim situation. Then his precious daughter would not have to sacrifice her happiness to this useless playboy. At this moment, Li Zhengyang's heart was filled with hatred for himself. However, when he thought about the terrifying core formation realm strength of the Mad Saber sect's master, his face revealed a look of despair. The difference between a core formation realm cultivator and a purple spirit realm cultivator was akin to the difference between heaven and earth. Moreover, he was still heavily injured. The Li family stood no chance against the Mad Saber sect. Li Qingyan was also clear about the terror of a core formation realm cultivator. Back then, when she was at the Zhaohe City auction house, she had personally witnessed the terrifying strength of a core formation realm cultivator. That incomparably arrogant vice commander of the evil blood sect had been turned into ashes with a wave of that person's hand. That scene back there greatly moved Li Qingyan's heart and gave her a deeper understanding of the core formation realm. Even now, when she recalled it, her heart yearned for that power. If she possessed that terrifying power, then she would be able to avert this tragedy. At that time, even though the Mad Saber sect's master was also a core formation realm cultivator, she would not need to be afraid. After all, that young man at the core formation realm had used absolute power to force the master of the auction house to alter the rules. Unfortunately, it was just wishful thinking. At that time, Li Qingyan also had some guesses about Yizan's identity. She had also guessed that he was most likely the elder of the Qingyan sect, Yizan, but she was not 100% certain. Sigh, even if my strength will never be as strong as that senior's, it would be a blessing if I could become that senior's disciple. Thinking this, Li Qingyan could not help but sigh deeply. If her teacher was as powerful as that young man, even the leader of the Mad Saber sect would have to back down, right? At this moment, Li Qingyan's body felt like it had been struck by lightning. She was stunned senseless. Someone, unbelievable had indeed appeared in front of her. A handsome, sharp-eyed young man with starry eyes had suddenly appeared in the Li family's courtyard. More importantly, if she had not seen him with her own two eyes, there was no way she would know he was there. It would be impossible to detect the other party's presence using spiritual sense. He was like a ghost. The reason why Li Qingyan was so shocked was that she recognized this young man. He was the top-tier powerhouse who had killed the deputy commander of the evil blood sect, Feng Yitai, in the Zhaohe City auction house. Why is he here? Li Qingyan's eyes were filled with shock. Why did this top-tier powerhouse appear in the Li family's residence? Did God hear my prayers? Did he fulfill my wishes? Or was this just an illusion? Li Qingyan immediately rubbed her eyes to check if what she was seeing was real. She then looked at him again. The handsome young man was really still there. It's really him. At that moment, Li Qingyan's heart could not help but beat rapidly. She knew that the young man's cultivation had reached the core formation realm. However, why did he come to our Li family's residence? Chapter 47. Are you willing to acknowledge me as your master? Who are you? Why have you come to the Li family's residence? Our Li's reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. By this time, Li Zhengyang had noticed Yizan, and his expression immediately turned solemn. Family head, did something happen? Li Zhengyang had deliberately raised his voice just now, and it immediately attracted the attention of the family elders. Soon, many elders of the Li family appeared in the courtyard. Who are you? When the elders' eyes fell on Yizan, they narrowed their eyes and immediately became vigilant. Although the Li family was not as powerful as before, not many people could bypass their defensive perimeter so easily, especially this silently. Father. At this moment, Li Qingyan also reacted and quickly stopped Li Zhengyang from doing anything rash. Her father and elders were not aware of this young man's strength, but she had witnessed his power a few days ago. If the other party was unhappy, he could destroy the entire Li family in an instant. Even if he wanted to destroy Zhongqing City, it would not be a difficult matter. No matter what his goal was, at the very least, they should not provoke him. Yizan first looked at Li Qingyan, and then slowly said, Qingyan sect, Yizan. What? Qingyan sect, Yizan. How is this possible? Hearing this, Li Zhengyang and the elders were stunned, and their expressions changed greatly. Although Zhongqing City was located in a remote region, they were still familiar with the name Yizan. His widespread fame was hard to miss as long as you were in the territory of the Great Qian dynasty. The Qingyan sect was one of the top 10 sects in the Great Qian dynasty, so how could they not know of them and him? Li Qingyan trembled. He was really Yizan of the Qingyan sect. Li Qingyan did not doubt the authenticity of Yizan's words. After all, a core formation realm cultivator would not waste his time deceiving them. Moreover, in the entire Great Qin dynasty, who else could have reached the core formation realm at such a young age? Only Yizan of the Qingyan sect could do this. Seeing this, Li Zhengyang immediately became nervous. Why would the strongest genius of the Qingyan sect appear in a remote place like Zhongqing City? What was his purpose in coming here? Li Qingyan. Yi Zan's gaze fell on Li Qingyan and he called her name. That's me. Li Qingyan nervously responded to his inquiry. She quickly nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. I want to take you as my disciple. Are you willing? Yi Zan nodded and got straight to the point. Li Qingyan was stunned when she heard this. She was completely dumbfounded. Not far away, Li Zhengyang and the elders were petrified. FCK. Is there something wrong with my hearing? Did Yi Zan really want to take Li Qingyan as his disciple? This was the strongest genius of the younger generation of the Great Qian dynasty they were talking about here. His cultivation level had even reached the core formation realm. Did he really want to take Li Qingyan as his disciple? For a moment, they felt their souls leave them. It was as if they had been struck by lightning. Their hearts and minds were filled with disbelief. Why would a super powerhouse like Yi Zan want to take Li Qingyan as his disciple? Was there anything special about her? If they were to talk about their family background, Zhongqing City was just a remote city in the Great Qian dynasty, and Li Qingyan was just the eldest daughter of a big family here. Perhaps in the eyes of the citizens of Zhongqing City, Li Qingyan was an amazing genius, but in the eyes of the Qingyan sect, she was nothing special at all. In terms of talent, although Li Qingyan's talent was above average, it was not particularly outstanding. Given Yi Zan's current strength and status, if he wanted to take in a disciple, the genius cultivators of the entire Great Qian dynasty would probably line up for miles, right? If one were to look at her appearance, Li Qingyan could indeed be considered a beauty, but she could not be considered as a beauty that could draw crowds and cause the downfall of nations. Yi Zan was a super powerhouse whose cultivation had reached the core formation realm. As long as he beckoned slightly, countless beautiful women would immediately throw themselves into his arms. Just like that, Li Zhengyang and the other elders eliminated all the possibilities of why he would want to take her as his disciple. So, just why? I wonder what merit Elder Yi Zan sees in my daughter for Elder Yi Zan to come personally. Li Zhengyang immediately suppressed the shock in his heart and quickly bowed respectfully to Yi Zan. Do I, Yi Zan, need a reason to take in a disciple? Yi Zan said lightly. Li Zhengyang's eyes trembled. FCK. Was this the attitude of a super powerhouse? He did not even need a reason to accept a disciple. He was totally doing this on a whim. However, not only did Li Zhengyang and the elders not feel that there was anything unusual about this, they even felt that this was the normal attitude of a super expert. I am willing to become Elder Yi Zan's disciple. Li Qingyan's delicate body trembled. Her face was filled with excitement, and she was very close to crying. To her, being chosen by Yi Zan was probably due to some sort of blessing or karma from her past life. Li Qingyan immediately knelt down respectfully in front of Yi Zan and greeted him as her master. Well, very good. From today onward, you are my second disciple. Seeing this, Yi Zan smiled. A dual spirit physique with fire and wood attributes made her a natural alchemist. As long as he could help Li Qingyan become an alchemist, then through the system's feedback reward, he would naturally become a powerful alchemist himself. Rise. Yi Zan gently took a step forward. Everyone felt their eyes blur and, the next second, Yi Zan's figure appeared in front of Li Qingyan. Now that you are my disciple, I will naturally not sit idly by and do nothing about the Li family's predicament. Don't worry, I will wait for the master of the Mad Saber sect to show up at your Li family's residence. I would like to see what ability he has in daring to target my disciple. Yi Zan said all this indifferently. His words seemed to imply that this was an extremely trifling matter. However, Yi Zan did have the qualifications to back up his attitude. The strength of a mere virtual core realm cultivator was like an ant in his eyes. I thank teacher on behalf of the Li family. Hearing this, Li Qingyan was immediately moved to tears. She did not expect that she would really become the disciple of a core formation realm powerhouse. With her teacher as her backer, she did not have to sacrifice her happiness and marry Chen Ping. Chapter 48. Vermilion Mountain Fruit. You're welcome. Seeing this, Yi Zan waved his hand indifferently. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. To him, it was normal for a teacher to protect their disciples, so there was no need for such thanks. Also, as his disciple, how could he bear to see her bullied? Thank you, Elder Yi. Thank you, Elder Yi. Hearing this, Li Zhengyang and the other elders trembled in excitement and bowed to Yi Zan gratefully. Now that Elder Yi Zan was backing up the Li family, why should they be afraid of the leader of the Mad Saber sect? Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect was also a top-tier core formation realm powerhouse, how could he compare to Yi Zan? Yi Zan was both monstrously powerful and monstrously talented. In fact, just the mere mention of the Qingyan sect that he belonged to was enough to suppress the leader of the Mad Saber sect. One had to know that the elders of even the lowest-ranked top-tier sects were at least in the virtual core realm. The sect leaders were mostly true core realm cultivators to boot. Compared to the Qingyan sect, the Mad Saber sect was insignificant. The leader's cultivation was only at the initial stage of the virtual core realm. Although his strength was enough to crush the Li family, he was an ant in the eyes of the Qingyan sect. This is a fruit that grows on Vermilion Mountain. It is very effective in treating injuries. As long as he completely absorbs its energy, your father's injuries will naturally heal. At this moment, Yi Zan waved his sleeve. A fruit the size of a fist suddenly appeared in front of Li Qingyan. The fruit exuded extremely mysterious red power. This can also be considered as my welcome gift to you. Thank you, teacher. Li Qingyan, who had just calmed herself down, felt moved once again. Her heart was filled with gratitude toward Yi Zan. Although the effect of the Vermilion Mountain fruit could not compare to the soul-returning pill, it could at least heal her father's injuries. Such a treasure was very precious, but her teacher gave it to her without the slightest hesitation. Moreover, the meaning of her teacher's words was also very obvious. This treasure was specially prepared for her father. Yi Zan could have directly given the fruit to Li Zhengyang, but he was not stupid. Only by giving it to his disciple could he receive a reward from the system. Father, you can eat it later. Without the slightest hesitation, Li Qingyan accepted the Vermilion Mountain fruit and handed it to her father. Thank you for saving my life, Elder Yi. I will never forget your grace. Seeing this, Li Zhengyang could not help but tremble, and his eyes were full of gratitude. Although he did not know what the Vermilion Mountain fruit was, he could tell that its effect was not much weaker than the soul-returning pill. He had originally given up hope when his precious daughter failed to successfully bid for the soul-returning pill. He consigned himself to being crippled for the rest of his life. Yi Zan's appearance here had given him a new lease on life. Moreover, not only did the other party take his precious daughter as his disciple, but he also gave away the extremely precious Vermilion Mountain fruit. This was the strength of a core formation realm cultivator. Ding! As the host has given his disciple the holy healing medicine, Vermilion Mountain fruit, the host has received a randomized 10x critical reward. Congratulations, the host has obtained the holy healing medicine, spirit fruit. At the same time, the sound of a system notification rang out in Yi Zan's mind, and he smiled. Then, a fruit filled with white mysterious power suddenly appeared in his system inventory. This is the benefit of taking in a new disciple. You should leave with me first to go and pay your respects to your senior sister. After that, I will teach you the cultivation methods and martial techniques of the Qingyan sect. Yi Zan said. Yes, master. Li Qingyan quickly nodded. Yi Zan then waved his sleeve, and the true qi in his body gushed out. It then wrapped itself around Li Qingyan, and they both turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the distance. After the two of them left, Li Zhengyang and the elders were still in shock. After some time, an elder spoke. Qingyan sect, Yi Zan. I didn't expect that my Li family would receive the favor of the Qingyan sect. Qingyan even became a disciple of Elder Yi Zan. Ha 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 ha. The elder's face was full of excitement, and his body trembled with joy. They had thought that there was only one way out for the Li family, which was to marry Li Qingyan to Chen Ping. From then on, although the Li family could survive, they would become a subsidiary family of the Chen family and eke out an ignoble life. They had never imagined that this situation would be overturned in such spectacular fashion. A super powerhouse who had reached the core formation realm had come to their Li family's residence, and even accepted Li Qingyan as a disciple. The moment Li Qingyan truly became Yi Zan's disciple, the Li family knew that they no longer had to fear the Chen family. So what if Chen Ping had become the personal disciple of the leader of the Mad Saber sect? How could he compare to Li Qingyan becoming the disciple of Elder Yi Zan? The name Yi Zan already represented the pinnacle position in the Great Qian dynasty. He was a tragedy in the eyes of countless young cultivators, a terrifying monster that could never be surpassed. Not only was Yi Zan a super genius that the younger generation of cultivators could not surpass, even the older generation of cultivators could not surpass him. Although Yi Zan's current strength could not be compared to the sect master of the Qingyan sect, given his monstrous talent, it would not be long before he surpassed the sect master of the Qingyan sect and became the strongest cultivator ever since the founding of the Qingyan sect. All the cultivators of the great Qian dynasty had heard of Yi Zan's deeds and viewed him as an existence who would be equal to the master of the great Qian dynasty in the future. How could a mere Chen Ping be compared to Li Qingyan? Good, good. Li Zhengyang clenched his fists tightly and said good twice in succession. His originally pale and powerless face turned rosy. Compared to everyone else, he was undoubtedly the most excited one here. Ever since he was heavily injured, his strength had dropped drastically. The Li family had fallen into an unprecedented predicament. How could an injured tiger withstand the siege of a pack of wolves? Although he felt helpless inwardly, as the head of the Li family, he could only choose to endure the pain and sacrifice his daughter's happiness. However, no matter what, his heart was extremely pained. He even regretted becoming the head of the Li family. Even if he was the head of a family, he did not have absolute power. He could not even protect his own daughter. What a sad father he was. Was he even worthy of being a father? Moreover, the Li family had been about to become someone else's subordinate family in his hands. Was he really worthy of being the head of the family? However, just as he was despairing, Yi Zan appeared and brought renewed hope. Like the dawning of a new day, he was like the sun, whose brilliance rescued the Li family from their dark and desperate plight. In the eyes of Li Zhengyang and countless Li family members, Yi Zan was their savior. Chapter 49. It was time to reap rewards again. Although the strength of the Li family was insignificant in the eyes of such a terrifying expert like Yi Zan, Li Zhengyang had already made a decision. He wanted to engrave Yi Zan's kindness into the Li family's ancestral records. Every member of the Li family must always remember Yi Zan's kindness. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So After the various elders learned of Li Zhengyang's intentions, they all agreed. You, come and have a look. You now have a junior sister. Yi Zan brought Li Qingyan to meet you. Qingyan greets senior sister. Li Qingyan bowed respectfully to you. Of course, it was not their first time meeting. They had met each other in Zhaohe City. However, Li Qingyan was very shocked. Compared to that time, Yu's temperament had already undergone an earth-shaking change. Previously, Li Qingyan thought that her appearance was above average, but compared to Yu, it was nothing worth shouting about. Yu was so beautiful that she could overshadow a beauty like Li Qingyan. Nice to meet you, junior sister Qingyan. Yu nodded with a smile. In terms of age, Li Qingyan was almost 18 years old, which made her 3 years older than Yu. Of course, on the Tianyuan continent, the relationship between disciples was not based on age, but rather on the order in which they entered their teacher's tutelage. Beside them, Huang Ling and Shui Min surrounded Li Qingyan with curious gazes, secretly trying to guess what was so special about Li Qingyan that caught Elder Yi's fancy. Moreover, their eyes were filled with envy. When Li Qingyan saw this, her face flushed red and she inexplicably felt like she was being watched like an animal on display at the zoo. However, girls were strange creatures to begin with, so after a brief greeting, the girls soon became very familiar with each other. Li Qingyan then decided to play host and invited everyone to the Li family's residence as guests. After learning that Yi Zan was coming to visit, Li Zhengyang and many elders came out to welcome him personally and gave him a reception of the highest standards. However, Yi Zan was not particularly fond of the fanfare and chose to borrow one of the Li family's cultivation rooms. Of course, Li Qingyan was also in the cultivation room with him. Yi Zan looked at the natural treasures in his storage space, and then said to Li Qingyan, "Qingyan, I will now teach you the cultivation methods and martial techniques of the Qingyan sect. In addition, I will give you all kinds of medicinal pills, natural treasures, and weapons." "Thank you, teacher." Li Qingyan was excited when she heard this. The Qingyan sect was one of the top sects of the Great Qian dynasty. Its cultivation methods and martial techniques were naturally not something the Li family's resources could compare to. "I will teach you the Thunder Sword Control Technique. Its rank is low-grade Earth rank." What Yi Zan said next stunned Li Qingyan. "What? Earth rank? An Earth rank technique?" Li Qingyan's face was full of disbelief. Even the most advanced technique the Li family possessed had only reached low-grade Black rank. Was this the strength of a top-tier sect? A technique that was casually taken out had already reached low-grade Earth rank. "Qingyan, the cultivation technique that I'm teaching you is not from the Qingyan sect. Instead, it is a technique that I am currently using. It is much stronger than the Qingyan sect's sword spirit technique. If you cultivate it to completion, you will be able to summon the power of heaven and earth from the void." As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Zan's index finger shone brightly. Then, he tapped it on Li Qingyun's forehead, and the relevant information about the Thunder Sword control technique suddenly entered her mind. Since he was going to earn the system's reward from his disciple, he would definitely choose the most top-notch cultivation method and martial techniques to impart to her. If he chose to teach her the sword spirit technique, the technique that the system would reward him with would not even be as good as the Thunder Sword control technique. What a powerful technique! Li Qingyun was stunned after examining the huge amount of information that suddenly appeared in her mind. Ding! As the host has imparted the Thunder Sword control technique to his disciple, low-grade Earth rank, the host has randomly received a 20x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the 3000 Thunder Sword technique, middle-grade Earth rank. At the same time, the sound of a system notification rang out in Yizan's mind. Immediately, all of the mysteries of the 3000 Thunder Sword technique appeared in his mind. The critical multiplier this time is pretty good. Seeing the system notification, Yizan could not help but smile. If he took in a third disciple and imparted the 3000 Thunder Sword technique to them, he would be able to obtain an even better reward from the system. Perhaps he might even have a chance of obtaining a legendary heaven rank technique if this cycle continued. As long as I have enough disciples, won't I be able to continue getting better rewards? Won't the techniques I practice become stronger and stronger? Thinking this, Yizan's eyes lit up. However, Yizan did not dwell on the matter. After all, he only had 2 disciples at the moment. Then, Yizan taught Li Qingyun the sword spirit technique as well. After all, given Li Qingyun's current cultivation level, it was difficult for her to master the Thunder Sword control technique. The sword spirit technique was more suitable for her at this stage. However, because the 2 techniques belong to the same category, Yizan did not receive a reward from the system. Also, given Yu's current cultivation level, the sword spirit technique was enough to support her cultivation. After she made a breakthrough, he would teach her the Thunder Sword control technique or the 3000 Thunder Sword technique. Alright, I will teach you martial techniques next. At this moment, Yizan's index finger once again shone brightly, and then he gently tapped it onto Li Qingyun's forehead. Windstorm Slash, high-grade black rank. 3 feet sword defense, high-grade black rank. After learning these 2 martial techniques, she would have both offensive and defensive techniques, and that was enough for her right now. Of course, Yizan also had many more offensive and defensive techniques, but the quality of these was lower than these 2. Moreover, these 2 martial techniques were obtained from the system's reward after he had taught you the Windstorm Sword technique and Rampart Sword technique. Ding! As the host has taught his disciple the Windstorm Slash technique, high-grade black rank, the host has received a 9x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the Star Slash technique, high-grade black rank. Ding! As the host has taught his disciple the 3 feet sword defense technique, high-grade black rank, the host has received a 15x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the Endless Sword technique, high-grade black rank. 2 system notifications rang out in Yizan's mind simultaneously. Soon after, 2 extremely mysterious martial techniques suddenly appeared in his mind. Then, Yizan once again picked out some of the more suitable martial techniques and taught them to Li Qingyun. However, because the martial techniques he taught later were of the same category as the previous ones, he did not receive the corresponding reward from the system. Your comprehension ability is outstanding. It won't take long for you to completely master these techniques, but given your current cultivation, you are still unable to unleash the power of Windstorm Slash and 3 feet sword defense techniques. The most important thing for you now is to completely comprehend the basic martial techniques. When your cultivation reaches the True Essence realm or the Purple Spirit realm, you can practice Windstorm Slash and 3 feet sword defense techniques. After Yizan finished imparting the martial techniques, he gently reminded Li Qingyun. Chapter 50. Teacher's Gifts. Li Qingyun's comprehension value was very high, much higher than Yu's. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So I will heed teacher's instructions. When Li Qingyun heard his reminder, she nodded respectfully. Her eyes shone. She was still immersed in the joy of obtaining those high-grade martial techniques. One had to know that even though the Li family was the strongest family in Zhongqing City, most of the martial techniques in their repository were yellow rank ones. She had never seen such a large number of black rank martial techniques. Moreover, each martial technique was a high-grade one. The most advanced martial technique in the entirety of the Li family was only a low-grade black rank technique, while the Thunder Sword control technique that her teacher taught her was at low-grade earth rank. The difference between the 2 was not small. Even the sword spirit technique of the Qingyan sect was far superior to the Li family's best martial technique. For cultivators, having wealth was undoubtedly extremely important. However, wealth had two aspects to it. One aspect was quantity, while the other was quality. No matter how bad a cultivator's talent was, as long as he or she had sufficient heavenly treasures and cultivation resources, they would be able to become a powerhouse of sorts. However, without the quality aspect of wealth, their cultivation would have an upper limit. If Li Zhengyang's original cultivation method had been the sword spirit technique, his strength would have definitely surpassed his current strength. Although he might not necessarily be able to reach the 10th level of the purple spirit realm, he would have at the very least reached the 9th level of the purple spirit realm. Li Qingyan had obtained so many martial techniques at once and was slowly digesting them. Yi Zan was not in a hurry to examine Li Qingyan's comprehension of these martial techniques. Instead, he examined the cultivation method and martial techniques he received from the system. The mid-grade Earth rank 3000 Thunder Sword technique was much stronger than the low-grade Earth rank Thunder Sword technique. Moreover, the boost to its user's cultivation speed was even greater. Most importantly, after cultivating the 3000 Thunder Sword technique, the cultivator's body would contain the power of heaven and earth lightning, which was extremely tyrannical. The 3000 Thunder Sword technique was said to be able to summon the power of heaven and earth lightning from the void when it was cultivated to completion. Its wielder would then be able to summon 3000 extremely terrifying bolts of lightning to strike their enemies. The high-grade black rank Star Slash was a martial technique that evolved from the Windstorm Sword technique and the Windstorm Slash technique. The user's sword chi would be transformed into an incomparably sharp slash which could even tear apart the void. As for the Endless Sword technique, which was high-grade black rank, it was a martial technique evolved from the Rampart Sword technique and the 3 Feet Sword defense technique. It had extremely potent defensive capabilities. When it was fully mastered, the tip of one's sword would burst forth with endless streams of water, like rain, creating a defensive barrier around its wielder. If Yi Zan could train these two martial techniques to complete mastery, it would undoubtedly provide a great boost to his own strength. Most importantly, as the strongest genius of the Great Qian dynasty, Yi Zan's comprehension value was even more terrifying than Li Qingyan's. It would not take long for him to comprehend these newly acquired cultivation methods and martial techniques. After a short period of secluded cultivation, he would be able to reach the small success stage. It would not take long for him to break through to the large success stage. If Yi Zan's comprehension value could increase further, it would take even less time. Moreover, before he left the Qingyan sect, he had learned from Elder Lin Qing that the 3 great sects were about to hold a competition, so he had been keeping an eye out for it. The prizes offered by this competition could increase a cultivator's comprehension value. Such treasures were extremely rare. However, the 3 great sects were willing to pay such a price. The comprehension value boost that the treasure could provide was probably limited. However, that did not matter. After all, Yi Zan had the system. As long as he personally gave the heavenly treasure to his disciple, would he not receive a better one from the system? Well, it's time for me to give you some pills and heavenly treasures. While Li Qingyan was immersed in the comprehension and digestion of her newly acquired cultivation method and martial techniques in her mind, Yi Zan spoke up again. What? Hearing this, Li Qingyan was stunned. To be able to receive such a high-level cultivation method and martial techniques from her teacher was already something beyond her wildest dreams. After all, any one of the cultivation methods and martial techniques that Yi Zan had given her could cause a sensation among countless cultivators in the outside world. Now, her teacher was actually going to give her heavenly treasures and pills. While Li Qingyan was lost in a daze, Yi Zan waved his sleeve, and a few pills emitting rich spiritual energy suddenly appeared and fell into Li Qingyan's hands. Ding! As the host has given his disciple an origin erosion pill, grade 2, the host has received a randomized 8x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the spirit cleansing pill, grade 2. Ding! As the host has given his disciple an origin erosion pill, grade 1, the host has received a randomized 4x critical reward. Congratulations! The host has obtained the blood fusion pill, grade 1. Ding! As the host has given his disciple. After Li Qingyan accepted the pills, system notifications kept popping off in Yi Zan's mind. Then, Yi Zan thought for a moment, and then took out a jade white liquid from his storage ring. It was the mountain chalcedony he had obtained from the system back then. At that time, after he had given you the dark glacial frost, he had received this heavenly treasure from the system. It could increase a cultivator's innate bone value to a certain extent. It was an extremely rare heavenly treasure. This item can increase your innate bone value. I will give it to you. In the future, when the time is right, I will help you refine it. Yizan stretched out his hand and lightly flicked it toward her. The mountain chalcedony landed in front of Li Qingyan. Ding. As the host has given his disciple the mountain chalcedony, one person's portion, the host has received a randomized 6x critical reward. Congratulations. The host has received the dark glacial heart, one person's portion. Obviously, the dark glacial heart was also a heavenly treasure that could increase a cultivator's innate bone value. In terms of quality, it was even more powerful than the previous mountain chalcedony. The most important thing was that the dark glacial heart had some similarities with the previous dark glacial frost. However, the former contained the profound patterns of heaven and earth. What? Mountain chalcedony? Li Qingyan felt her head buzzing. She was engulfed by a huge sense of happiness. She felt that everything that was happening around here was so incredible. It was like a dream. She was afraid that it would all disappear the moment she woke up. Chapter 51. Master's Spiritual Power Infusion. As the saying goes, when a teacher takes a disciple in, that the disciple's cultivation would still depend on themselves. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So she had just become a disciple, and yet had received such precious gifts. She was filled with disbelief. As everyone knew, even if the relationship between teacher and disciple was good, most teachers would only give guidance to their disciples in their spare time. The disciples would only receive treasures that the teacher no longer wanted or needed. However, Yizan had given her extremely rare and precious treasures. His generosity exceeded Li Qingyan's imagination. Li Qingyan hurriedly closed her eyes. In the end, she shook her head around and tried to pinch herself. What are you doing? Seeing this, Yizan did not know how to react. Then, he gently flicked Li Qingyan's forehead. Girl, do you think you are dreaming? I told you earlier. I rarely accept disciples, but if you become my disciple, you will definitely not be treated unfairly. Teacher, hearing this, Li Qingyan felt very touched. To be able to become Yizan's disciple was really her great fortune. Li Qingyan touched her forehead that had been flicked by Yizan, and a brilliant smile appeared on her face. The mountain chalcedony can strengthen a cultivator's innate bone value. Innate bone value refers to a cultivator's. Then, Yizan explained the meaning of innate bone value to Li Qingyan. This was because he discovered that many cultivators often confuse their innate talent and innate bone value. Strictly speaking, innate bone value was only a part of their innate talent. A cultivator's innate talent was divided into innate bone value and comprehension value. After Yizan's explanation, Li Qingyan revealed a glint of understanding. She also came to understand that her comprehension value was actually the highest her teacher had ever seen, and even higher than senior sister Yu's. Of course, there was still a big gap between her comprehension value and her teacher's. However, although her comprehension value was very high, Yu's innate bone value far surpassed her own. However, all of this was not a problem. After all, Li Qingyan had a dual spirit physique. As long as she awakened her special physique, her innate bone value would naturally be greatly strengthened. Yizan then gave her a 50 cubic meter storage ring. He then received a randomized 3x critical reward, and obtained a 155 cubic meter storage ring. Your comprehension value is indeed not low, but you can't slack off because of this. You still need to persevere and work hard on the path of cultivation. Don't let me down, Yizan said. I understand. Li Qingyan nodded very seriously. In fact, even without Yizan's reminder, Li Qingyan would not slack off in her cultivation. After all, her experience with the Li family's predicament had taught her that only strength mattered in this world. The Li family's martial techniques were basically all yellow rank, and Li Qingyan had mastered them. Now that she had gotten her hands on high-grade martial techniques, she naturally would not slack off. After practicing the martial techniques that I got from my teacher, my cultivation speed will definitely be much faster. I might be able to advance to the true essence realm by next year. Thinking this, Li Qingyan could not help but reveal an excited expression. Although her comprehension value was not low, due to the restriction of the quality of the cultivation method she was practicing, she had only reached the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Reaching such a realm at the age of 16 could only be considered average in the Great Qian dynasty. However, in such a remote place like Zhongqing City, she was already a rare genius cultivator. Currently, most of the cultivators in the city her age were only at the 2nd or 3rd level of the Qi transformation realm. Moreover, there were many cultivators who were stuck in the body refinement realm. However, compared to the cultivators in the entire Great Qian dynasty, Li Qingyan's achievements were relatively mediocre. The population of the Great Qian dynasty was 1.7 billion, and Li Qingyan's talent could only be ranked in the middle or upper range. She was a long way from the top. Only genius cultivators like Huangling and Shui Min could be considered as geniuses among the young cultivators. The two girls were only 1 year older than Li Qingyan, but their cultivation levels had reached the 4th and 5th level of the true essence realm respectively. This was the true strength of a top sect's personal disciple. Of course, thanks to the existence of a monster like Yi Zan, Huangling and Shui Min's radiance was overshadowed. As for Yu, her achievements were due to Yi Zan's spiritual power infusion and her awakening of the sword jade physique, which caused her cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds before finally reaching the 5th level of the true essence realm. In addition, Yu's comprehension value was not low. She learned quickly in combat, and could quickly adapt what she learned and apply it to increase her own strength. It was precisely because of this that Yu was able to compete with Huangling and Shui Min. If Huangling and Shui Min were placed among the cultivators of the younger generation of the Great Qian dynasty, they would already be considered as geniuses with top-tier talent. However, there was nothing they could do. The two of them had encountered Yi Zan, who was a cheater. Aided by the system, the disciples that he had taught were naturally extremely talented. The most urgent thing for me to do now is comprehend the sword spirit technique. Given my current comprehension value, it shouldn't take too much time. After I enter the true essence realm, I can try cultivating the thunder sword control technique. Yes, the path of cultivation shouldn't be rushed. I have to take every step carefully and completely master the sword spirit technique first. I can't disappoint teachers' expectations. I'll strive to advance to the true essence realm before next year. Soon, Li Qingyan secretly made up her mind. However, what Yi Zan said next immediately stunned Li Qingyan. Her mouth opened so wide that it was large enough to swallow an egg. These are the heavenly treasures I have given you for now. There will be more later. Sit down and regulate your breathing. I'm going to irrigate your spiritual power. Yi Zan said. What? Spiritual power infusion. Hearing this, Li Qingyan widened her eyes. Her expression was full of shock. It was the same as Yu's back then. Although Zhongqing City was located in a remote place, she also knew what spiritual power infusion was. This was the same level of kindness as parental love. Even her father, who loved her very much, had never thought about spiritual power infusion. After all, this was a matter of self-interest, and it was very exhausting. Normally only those on their deathbeds would make such a choice to strengthen their juniors. Teacher, you. Li Qingyan's eyes were full of shock. She was afraid that she had misheard him. Don't doubt it. Spiritual power infusion is the fastest way to help you break through. Yi Zan said. Yi Zan understood the change in Li Qingyan's expression. Honestly, if he did not have the system, he would not do such a stupid thing. Luckily, in his case, spiritual power infusion would not only help his disciple break through, but he would also get the corresponding system reward. In this way, not only would he be able to break through himself, but he would also receive the gratitude of his disciple. This feeling was simply too good. Teacher, When Li Qingyan heard this, her nose started sniffling, and her pupils turned red. At this moment, the emotions in her heart were the same as Yu back then. She felt immense gratitude toward Yi Zan. Chapter 52. Ascending to the heavens in one step. Okay, silly girl, quickly adjust your breathing. I'm going to start infusing you with spiritual power. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Yi Zan smiled and habitually patted his disciple's head. This woman was very sensitive. She knew how and when to be grateful. The way she cried really made him feel helpless. Yes, teacher. Just as the 2 drops of tears were about to fall, Li Qingyan quickly wiped them away. Li Qingyan, this is a good thing. Why are you crying? Be happy. Okay, how much virtue did I accumulate in my previous life to be able to meet such a good teacher? That nose sniffled a little, after which she finally composed herself. How could I cry like that? I embarrassed myself in front of teacher. Still, teacher's hands are really warm. Okay, get ready. We're going to start. Yi Zan withdrew his hand and signaled to Li Qingyan to sit down with his eyes. Li Qingyan nodded, and then quickly went over to the mat in the cultivation room. She sat down cross-legged and slowly adjusted her breathing. Li Qingyan had originally thought that with the high-grade cultivation method given by her teacher, as long as she practiced hard, there was a good chance that she would be able to step into the true essence realm in under a year. However, she did not expect her teacher to perform spiritual power infusion for her. Her teacher was a core formation realm cultivator. She was worried that she might even advance to the true essence realm right after this process was complete. She was also curious, and wondered how far her cultivation would break through after receiving her teacher's spiritual power infusion. Would it be the second, or perhaps the third level of the true essence realm? The so-called spiritual power infusion, in layman's terms, was akin to a charitable donation. The funds, or spiritual power in this case, that he had painstakingly accumulated would be infused into his disciple's body. However, there were many limitations to spiritual power infusion. The most obvious one was related to the recipient's strength. If the recipient's cultivation level was too weak, and their foundation was unstable, even if they underwent the spiritual power infusion process, the spiritual power that their bodies could accept would be limited. If the recipient forcefully withstood it, the infusion of spiritual power would greatly damage the recipient's body and, in the worst-case scenario, the recipient's cultivation foundation might even be destroyed. Yi Zan was a core formation realm cultivator, while Li Qingyan was only a 7th-level Qi transformation realm cultivator. The difference in strength between the two was akin to the difference between heaven and earth. Moreover, Li Qingyan did not know much about spiritual power infusion. From her perspective, if she could reach the second or third level of the true essence realm after being infused with spiritual power, that result would already be extremely heaven-defying. Most importantly, Li Qingyan did not think that Yi Zan would waste too much spiritual power on her. After all, if the degree of spiritual power infusion was too great, it would greatly affect the former's cultivation. Buzz! A wave of spiritual power like a vast ocean suddenly appeared, completely enveloping Li Qingyan. This power is so majestic. Is this teacher's true strength? At that moment, Li Qingyan could not help but tremble, and her eyes were filled with shock. Compared to this overwhelming spiritual power, she was like a small boat, tossing and turning in the vast ocean, in danger of being overturned by the magnificent waves at any time. Channel your qi into the dantian, and use it to contain your true essence power. At this moment, Yi Zan's voice rumbled. Li Qingyan immediately circulated her cultivation method to stabilize the chaotic power in her dantian. Just like the spiritual power that had been poured into you previously, Yi Zan chose to slowly decompose the gold core power in his dantian, transforming the minto streams of warm current that slowly flowed into Li Qingyan's dantian. This power is so pure. As the streams of warm current flowed in, Li Qingyan felt as if she was bathed in holy light. Her face could not help but reveal an expression of pleasure. At the same time, the aura around her body rose steadily. 8th level of the Qi transformation realm. 9th level of the Qi transformation realm. 10th level of the Qi transformation realm. Under Yi Zan's precise control, the decomposed gold core power entered Li Qingyan's dantian and slowly condensed into true essence power. If Li Qingyan were to refine it alone, it would take her at least half a month to complete. However, for Yi Zan, who was in the gold core realm, it was a piece of cake. As the spiritual power in Li Qingyan's dantian slowly transformed into true essence power, her realm also advanced, and she stepped into the true essence realm. 1st level of the true essence realm. 2nd level of the true essence realm. Not only did Li Qingyan advance a major realm, but thanks to Yi Zan's precise control, the true essence power contained in Li Qingyan's dantian was also extremely strong, and the stability of her cultivation realm far exceeded that of other cultivators. Before Yu's sword jade physique had awakened, her physique was much weaker than that of ordinary cultivators. However, even under such harsh conditions, Yi Zan still successfully helped Yu break through to the Qi transformation realm. Li Qingyan's cultivation foundation was far sturdier than Yu's, so the improvement of the former would naturally far surpass that of the latter. 5th level of the true essence realm. 6th level of the true essence realm. 7th level of the true essence realm. When Li Qingyan's realm reached the 8th level of the true essence realm, Yi Zan gradually stopped the spiritual power infusion process. Given Li Qingyan's current cultivation foundation, the 8th level of the true essence realm was already the limit. If she was forcefully pushed into the 9th level of the true essence realm, it was very likely that it would affect her cultivation foundation. I reached the 8th level of the true essence realm. Is this for real? Am I really not dreaming? After the magnificent power slowly faded away and dissipated, Li Qingyan's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. When she sensed the powerful true essence power contained in her dantian, her eyes were filled with disbelief. To her complete surprise, she had not only advanced to the true essence realm, but her cultivation had also reached the 8th level of the true essence realm. Now, looking at the river of true essence power circulating in her dantian, the spiritual power she had just a while ago seemed like a gentle stream. Moreover, after truly reaching the true essence realm, Li Qingyan finally understood how big the gap was between the true essence realm and the qi transformation realm. Advancing a minor realm in the true essence realm was equivalent to advancing 3 or 4 minor realms in the qi transformation realm. While there was an evident difference in numbers, the difference in the nature of the spiritual power was even more obvious. Ding. As the host has infused his disciple with 73 days worth of cultivation, the host has received a randomized 13x critical reward. Congratulations. The host has obtained 949 days worth of cultivation. As soon as the system finished speaking, the aura around Yizan's body started to surge. Li Qingyan, who had been immersed in her cultivation breakthrough, squinted her eyes when she sensed this terrifying power. She was both shocked and surprised. Why does teacher's spiritual power feel even more powerful after infusing his spiritual power into me? Right now, your cultivation has taken a huge leap. The most urgent thing for you to do now is to completely adapt to the power in your body and consolidate your foundation. Once you've completely stabilized your 8th level true essence realm, then you can start practicing the cultivation method and martial techniques that I taught you previously. Right at this moment, Yizan's words interrupted Li Qingyan's thoughts. Chapter 53. Reaching the true essence realm in the blink of an eye. Yes, teacher. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Li Qingyan nodded respectfully, and then said goodbye to Yizan. After Li Qingyan left, Yizan slowly examined his gains. Through the spiritual power infusion process just now, he directly obtained close to 1,000 days worth of cultivation from the reward. Subtracting the 73 days worth of cultivation he had expended for the infusion process, he had still earned more than 2 years worth of cultivation. Even so, Yizan's cultivation did not show even the slightest signs of breaking through. If a cultivator at the true core realm wanted to advance a small realm, and the spiritual power required to do so was like a lake, then for a cultivator at the gold core realm to advance, it would require spiritual power that was akin to a vast ocean. As cultivation realms went higher, the gap between the cultivators within the same major realm also gradually widened. Even if the gap between the cultivators was only a single minor realm, the strength difference was extremely obvious. Although the spiritual power infusion this time did not allow Yizan to break through, he had already reached the peak of the early stage of the gold core realm. Most importantly, he still had the 7th grade nirvana pill in his possession. The 7th grade nirvana pill contained extremely pure spiritual power and had a great effect on cultivators' breakthroughs. As long as Yizan went into secluded cultivation to absorb the pure spiritual power of the nirvana pill, he would be able to advance into the middle stage of the gold core realm. Cheating feels so good. A smile hung on Yizan's face, and then he directly chose to enter secluded cultivation. If he did not have the system rewards, and did not have the 7th grade nirvana pill that he had previously obtained, even if he was monstrously talented, it would still take him at least 4 to 5 years to enter the middle stage of the gold core realm. Moreover, this was also under the premise that he had awakened the Sword Overlord physique. If he had not awakened the Sword Overlord physique, it would have taken him even longer to break through. Ever since Li Qingyan became Yizan's disciple, the oppressive atmosphere within the Li family had dissipated. Li Zhengyang and the elders had bright smiles on their faces, but when their clansmen saw this scene, they felt that something very strange was going on. However, they did not dare to pry into the matter and could only make some guesses in their hearts. Could it be that the Li family had already resolved the crisis? Was the Chen family that merciful? Would they really let the Li family off? This was unlikely. The two families had a deep grudge. How could things be resolved so easily? Could it be that the Li family was going to seal themselves off? This was even more unlikely. Could it be related to those young people who had visited the Li family's residence previously? At this moment, the Li family members were constantly guessing. However, the family head and the elders did not announce anything, as they did not know how Yizan wanted to handle the matter. They did not dare to spread the news for fear of provoking Yizan's dissatisfaction. Therefore, the Li family head and elders simply chose to remain silent. In the Li family's hall, Li Zhengyang and the elders were having a heated discussion, but the topic today revolved around Li Qingyan. When they thought of Li Qingyan's discipleship under Yizan, their faces were filled with bright smiles. Were it not for Yizan's appearance, the Li family would be at their wits' end. Moreover, there was a high possibility that they would have chosen to sacrifice Li Qingyan's happiness and become a subordinate family of the Chen family. However, although Li Zhengyang and the elders were full of laughter, some of them were also feeling slightly guilty. After all, they had advocated for Li Qingyan to marry Chen Ping to resolve the Li family's crisis. The Li family was indeed facing a life and death crisis at that time, so, as elders, it was understandable for them to make such a decision. Still, disregarding all of that, the bottom line was that they were forcing a girl to sacrifice her happiness. Although Li Qingyan was a sensible child, it was inevitable that she would bear a grudge in the face of such a fate. Therefore, the elders only hoped that Li Qingyan would not take this up with them. Now that Li Qingyan had successfully become Yizan's disciple, her future was limitless. In the future, she might become a top-tier expert in the Great Qian dynasty, and the Li family would also reach new heights. At that time, the elders who had persuaded Li Zhengyang to sacrifice Li Qingyan's happiness might not be overtly punished, but there was also a high possibility that they would not be able to get important positions. Qingyan has become a personal disciple of the Qingyan sect. She might be able to reach the true essence realm soon. Thinking this, the first elder spoke up. Under normal circumstances, a personal disciple of a top-tier sect was definitely qualified to cultivate the sect's high-grade cultivation method. The Qingyan sect was one of the top 10 sects in the Great Qian dynasty. Its cultivation method naturally far surpassed the Li family's cultivation method. The combination of Li Qingyan's talent and the high-grade cultivation technique, her cultivation speed would naturally increase by leaps and bounds. Originally, it would have taken her at least a year for her to advance from the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm to the true essence realm. Now that she had become a personal disciple of Elder Yizan, this timeline would be cut in half. Qingyan is a smart kid. In the past, her cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary people. Now that she is cultivating the high-grade cultivation method of the Qingyan sect, I think she will be able to master it in a short time. Maybe before next year, this child will really be able to advance into the true essence realm. The second elder was also optimistic about her chances. The other elders nodded in agreement when they heard this. Li Qingyan's talent was obvious to everyone. I don't know how that kid managed to win the favor of the leader of the Mad Saber sect, but after he joined, he actually broke through from the 8th level of the Qi transformation realm to the 10th level of the Qi transformation realm. I wonder how pompous the Chen family is now. They've been spreading the news about Chen Ping everywhere. An elder chimed in midway, changing the tangent of the discussion. A sneer hung on his face as he spoke. Humph, how can a mere Mad Saber sect compare to the Qingyan sect? That kid Chen Ping was just lucky. If our Qingyan obtained her opportunity earlier, her cultivation realm would have definitely left Chen Ping's in the dust. Another elder also said with a smile. Clang, clang, clang. At this moment, the sound of swords clashing against each other could be heard in the distance. The sounds seemed to be coming from the training ground. Wait, the aura fluctuations are quite strong. It seems to be the work of a true essence realm cultivator. Could it be one of those young people that Elder Yi brought with him? It's very possible. Why don't we take a look? Those elders looked at each other before standing up. Li Zhengyang also revealed a curious expression. He also wanted to see just how strong those genius cultivators of the Qingyan sect were. Soon after, Li Zhengyang and the other elders arrived at the training ground. When their gazes landed on the two figures fighting each other in the training ground, they were completely dumbfounded. Qingyan, they could not help but stare, their eyes were full of shock. They had not expected that the two people fighting in the training ground were actually Li Qingyan and Yu. They saw two beautiful figures exuding powerful auras. The long swords in their hands clashed against each other repeatedly as they fought. Moreover, the aura fluctuations indicated that both had reached the true essence realm. Li Qingyan was a true essence realm cultivator. Also, the aura she was exuding was extremely powerful. As unbelievable as it sounded, she seemed to have reached the 8th level of the true essence realm. Was this a joke, right? How did this happen? Chapter 54. Other People's Teacher. At this moment, Li Zhengyang and the elders were all stunned, and their eyes filled with shock. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So if they remembered correctly, a few hours ago, Li Qingyan was still a 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator. FCK. Even if she soared to the heavens, she still should not have been able to break through so quickly. Were they hallucinating? Was this an illusion array set up by some expert? However, Li Jungyang and the elders were all purple spirit realm cultivators. Collectively trapping them all in an illusion array would require the strength of a true core realm cultivator at the very least. Moreover, this should not be the case. Why would such a true core realm expert attack the Li family? Dang, dang, dang. The intense sounds of swords clashing against each other kept ringing out in the training ground. Li Jungyang and the other elders came back to their senses when they felt the intense battle fluctuations from the fight. It seemed to be real. This is unbelievable. The first elder could not help but swallow his saliva when he saw this scene. He suspected that he was seeing things or dreaming. Li Jungyang narrowed his eyes as he watched the fight with a shocked expression. Just a few minutes ago, they had been discussing when Li Qingyan would be able to break through to the true essence realm. Everyone agreed that there was a high possibility that she would break through before next year. However, Li Qingyan had actually broken through from the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm to the 8th level of the true essence realm in the span of a few hours. Was this even FC King something that a human could achieve? Even Yi Zan had not been so abnormal back then, right? Wait, Yi Zan, right, it had to be Yi Zan's doing. Only a monstrous figure like him could help Li Qingyan advance to the 8th level of the true essence realm within a short period of time. Although they did not know what method Yi Zan used, if this matter were to be publicized, it would definitely cause countless cultivators to be shocked. Li Jungyang and the various elders forcefully suppressed the shock in their hearts and watched the battle in the training field with solemn expressions. It was obvious that Li Qingyan was not familiar with her newfound strength, but that was normal. Anyone who advanced that quickly would find it difficult to completely stabilize their cultivation and strength within a short period of time. Therefore, even if Li Qingyan's cultivation was 3 minor realms higher than Yu's, she was still unable to resist Yu's attacks. After all, Yu had not only completely stabilized her own cultivation realm, but she had also skillfully grasped the martial techniques that Yi Zan had taught her. Huang Ling and Shui Min had been her sparring partners before and, after that, she had participated in actual combat against the bandits. Yu's actual combat experience was no longer lacking. Although Li Qingyan's cultivation level was higher, if she wanted to surpass Yu in terms of strength, she still needed a certain amount of time to familiarize herself with her newfound strength, as well as the martial techniques. Whoosh! A sharp sword gleam flashed past, and a clear crack suddenly appeared on the hard granite of the training ground. Since Li Qingyan was unable to properly control her own power, the true essence power in her dantian overflowed. Yu, on the other hand, had achieved a level of control that was hard to believe. She could almost maximize every part of her power. The windstorm sword technique and the rampart sword technique that she used were deployed skillfully. So powerful. Although that girl is only at the 5th level of the true essence realm, her control of true essence power is extremely fine-tuned. Moreover, the spiritual power in her dantian is much richer than cultivators of the same realm. When Li Jungyang and the other elders saw this scene, their expressions turned serious. At the same time, they were inwardly questioning themselves. If they were also in the 5th level of the true essence realm, would they be a match for Yu? However, the outcome was obvious. Yu's strength had long surpassed ordinary 5th level true essence realm cultivators, and her combat experience was no longer her weakness. There was no way they could beat her at all. Of course, Li Qingyan's performance was not bad either. After all, Li Qingyan's comprehension value was higher than Yu's. As the fight progressed, Li Qingyan gradually became more and more familiar with her current strength, and the gap between her and Yu slowly narrowed. These two people are both freaks. Although Li Jungyang and the elders had reached the purple spirit realm, when they watched the fight between Yu and Li Qingyan, who were 2 true essence realm cultivators, they still felt shocked. At the same time, they gained a new understanding of the strength of the personal disciples of top-tier sects. They were very familiar with Li Qingyan's previous strength, but after just a few hours of Yi Zan's tutelage, she seemed to have undergone a complete transformation. This was especially true for her fighting spirit, which greatly impressed them. Qingyan's talent is not bad. Fortunately, she met Elder Yi Zan, so she will be able to fully display her full potential. It's all our fault that the Li family's strength is limited. We almost buried this girl's talent. Seeing this scene, the second elder could not help but sigh. Fortunately, Li Qingyan was still young and had successfully become Yi Zan's disciple. As night fell, the battle between Li Qingyan and Yu gradually came to an end. After the 2 swords collided with each other for the last time, their figures slowly separated. Thank you for your guidance today, senior sister. Li Qingyan put away the longsword in her hand and said to Yu with a smile. Junior sister's comprehension value is far higher than mine. With a little practice, you will be able to completely control the power in your body. By then, senior sister won't be able to defeat you. If you want to train in the future, you will have to look for teacher. Yu spoke humbly, her starry eyes shone mysteriously. Senior sister, you are too modest. I am extremely clear about my own abilities. Moreover, it is all thanks to teacher that I was able to reach such a level. Otherwise, I would still be a 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator. Thinking of Yi Zan, Li Qingyan's eyes shone as well. That's right. It is all thanks to teacher that I am able to reach my current level of cultivation as well. Yu smiled. Every time she thought of her teacher, she could not help but smile. Her otherworldly fairy-like temperament was suddenly showcased, stunning everyone. Not far away, Huangling and Shui Min saw this scene and looked at each other. The corners of their mouths twitched. Seeing their peers become so outstanding, they were undoubtedly extremely jealous. This was the feeling of being able to see something, but not being able to obtain it. It was too depressing. However, they could not do anything about it. After all, they were Elder Lin Qing's disciples, not Yi Zan's. Chapter 55. The drastic change in Zhongqing City. In such a short time, Li Qingyan's strength had undergone an earth-shaking change. They naturally knew the reason behind this. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. This could only be explained by spiritual power infusion. After all, Li Qingyan had just become Yi Zan's disciple. Somehow, the latter had already made such a huge sacrifice for her. Was this guy sure that he was recruiting disciples? Why did it feel like he was raising daughters? Although Huangling and Shui Min were very close to Yi Zan's age, if conditions allowed, they also wanted to become Yi Zan's disciples. Thinking this, their hearts were filled with envy. Back then, an impulsive decision had caused them to miss out on becoming the disciple of the best teacher on the Tianyuan continent. Moreover, this teacher was so handsome and powerful, but they were not fated with him. Could this be any worse? However, although they could not get him in reality, they could at least dream about him, right? Huangling and Shui Min could only comfort themselves in this way. When Li Qingyan stepped out of the training ground, Li Zhengyang and the elders quickly surrounded her. The elders' eyes fell on Li Qingyan, and they could not help but feel a little awkward around her. No one would expect these Purple Spirit Realm elders to lower themselves so much in front of an 8th level True Essence Realm cultivator. Of course, this was the benefit of being powerful. Not only had Li Qingyan's strength suddenly skyrocketed, the most important thing was that the person behind Li Qingyan was the most powerful elder of the Qingyan sect, Yi Zan. Moreover, they had also overheard the conversation between Li Qingyan and Yu just now and understood that the change in Li Qingyan's strength was indeed related to Yi Zan. It was obvious that Yi Zan loved his disciples very much and was not stingy when it came to nurturing his disciples. In other words, as long as Yi Zan existed, Li Qingyan and Yu's future was limitless. Qingyan, I wonder if Elder Yi. Among the many higher-ups of the Li family, only Li Zhengyang's expression was quite natural. Even so, when Li Zhengyang's gaze fell on his daughter, his expression unconsciously became somewhat reserved. Teacher is still in secluded cultivation in the cultivation room, Li Qingyan said with a smile. In that case, I'll immediately send out an order that no one is allowed to disturb Elder Yi Zan's cultivation room. Li Zhengyang said quickly. The other elders nodded in agreement. Time passed quickly and, soon, 2 days had passed. During this period, Yu had been Li Qingyan's sparring partner. It had to be said that cultivators with high comprehension value were different. Within just 2 days, Li Qingyan had almost completely grasped her newfound strength. Now, she was fighting on equal terms with Yu. Moreover, even if Yu used all of her strength, she could not gain any advantage. The cultivation of these two disciples had been improved by Yi Zan's spiritual power infusion. The spiritual power in their dantian far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators, and they were both very strong. Therefore, now that Li Qingyan could make full use of her 3 minor realm advantage, Yu was unable to defeat her. If Li Qingyan properly mastered all of the martial techniques that Yi Zan had imparted to her, then Yu would lose to Li Qingyan in a head-on fight. However, Yi Zan would perform spiritual power infusion monthly, which would narrow the gap between them. Now that the sword jade physique in Yu's body had been completely awakened, her innate bone value had been greatly improved. Naturally, she could now withstand more spiritual power infusion. However, Yu had always remembered Yi Zan's instructions. She did not slack off in her cultivation at all. Now that her huge grudge had been resolved, she was no longer obsessed over revenge. She only wanted to be by her teacher's side. She also hoped that she could become stronger quickly and catch up with her teacher as much as possible. She also hoped that one day she could fight alongside her teacher. Although she knew that she might never be able to catch up with Yizan in this lifetime, she still chose to give it her all. At least this way, if her teacher needed her in the future, she could be of use. Junior sister, you have properly grasped your newfound power. With my current strength, I can no longer be your sparring partner. If you want to gain some actual combat experience, you will have to wait for teacher to come out of seclusion. The rampart sword technique was activated. The long sword in Yu's hand filled the sky with sword chi. After blocking Li Qingyan's attack with great difficulty, she stopped the fight. Senior sister is too modest. Although I have an advantage in terms of my cultivation realm, I still have a lot to learn from senior sister in terms of cultivation methods and martial techniques. Li Qingyan said with a smile. Immediately after, Li Qingyan asked Yu for advice on cultivation methods and martial techniques. Yu did not hide anything. She imparted all of her experience and insights to Li Qingyan. Li Qingyan's comprehension value was extremely high. She quickly understood the insights that Yu had imparted to her. Although there were some parts that she was still confused about, after Yu's explanation, she immediately understood them. Of course, Yu did not slack off. She worked extremely hard to improve her cultivation level. The comprehension value of these two women far exceeded that of ordinary cultivators. By helping each other, they further improved their cultivation speed. However, just as the two of them were wholeheartedly cultivating, a huge change occurred in Zhongqing City. The Chen family finally could no longer suppress their ambitions and made a move against the Zhu family. The Chen family wanted to subdue the Zhu family, but the Zhu family members had already seen through the Chen family's intentions. Moreover, the Zhu family was different from the Li family, so there was no possibility of a marriage alliance. If they really chose to submit, the Chen family would certainly borrow the power of the Mad Saber sect and directly eliminate the Zhu family's upper echelons. After that, the Chen family would definitely completely erode the Zhu family's strength bit by bit. At that time, the Zhu family would be completely annihilated. Moreover, the Zhu family had previously cooperated with the Chen family, so the two families were very clear about each other's intentions. It was precisely because of this that the Zhu family decisively rejected the Chen family's conditions. If the end result was destruction either way, then why not take the opportunity before the Mad Saber sect's leader arrived to directly lead their entire family to evacuate Zhongqing City? Unfortunately, the Chen family had also seen through the Zhu family's plans. The moment they received the news from their spies, the Chen family did not hesitate to make their move. Not only did they interfere with the Zhu family's plans in the city, they even sent people outside the city to kill the members of the Zhu family. The alliance between the two families was shattered. The Zhu family had actually been considering cooperating with the Li family, but, unfortunately, the Li family had rejected them. Even if the two families joined hands, their combined strength would be insufficient to deal with the Mad Saber sect. Moreover, at that time, the Li family was thinking of forming a marriage alliance with the Chen family to protect the family, so they rejected the Zhu family's request for cooperation. Chapter 56. Marriage Alliance. Sorry, we don't need one. Now that Li Qingyan was Yizan's disciple, the Li family did not need to work together with the Zhu family. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Of course, the Zhu family had also considered seeking refuge with the city lord's mansion of Zhongqing City. However, although the city lord's mansion was powerful, it would not interfere with the conflict between the three families. Moreover, the conflict between the families was unavoidable. Even the imperial family of the Great Qian dynasty did not interfere much in such matters, let alone the city lord's mansion. As long as the conflict did not affect the general populace, the city lord's mansion would definitely not take action. Hence, the Zhu family had to face the Chen family alone. If the Chen family was their only opponent, the Zhu family would naturally not be afraid. However, much to the Zhu family's surprise, the Made Saber sect had actually sent a powerful elder to take charge of the Chen family's forces. This elder's strength had reached the 9th level of the Purple Spirit Realm. Thanks to the presence of this elder, the Zhu family's plan to escape completely failed. As everyone knew, in the absence of a core formation realm cultivator, a 9th level or 10th level Purple Spirit Realm cultivator would be an invincible existence. Chen Junhao, are you really going to exterminate my Zhu family? Outside Zhongqing City, a furious roar suddenly erupted from inside a dense forest. The Zhu family head's face was filled with despair. They could have moved a portion of their clansmen to escape, but they had not expected the Mad Saber sect elder to actually intervene. A 9th-level Purple Spirit Realm cultivator was extremely powerful, and his presence alone was sufficient to suppress the entire Zhu family. HMPH, seeing that our two families have cooperated before, I gave you a chance. It's a pity that you didn't cherish it. Chen Junhao, the head of the Chen family, said this with a mocking expression. When the head of the Zhu family heard this, he was almost angered to death. What kind of FC King chance did he even give them? It was clearly an attempt to annex the Zhu family. However, in consideration of our past relationship, I will give you one last chance. This morning, Chen Ping returned to Zhongqing City. Chen Ping wants to fight with your Zhu family's Zhu Peng. If Zhu Peng wins, I will let your Zhu family leave. Chen Junhao looked at the leader of the Zhu family and said indifferently. The leader of the Zhu family clenched his fists when he heard this. He felt extremely humiliated. Not only was Zhu Peng his son, but he was also the strongest cultivator of the Zhu family's younger generation. However, his strength had only reached the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Now that Chen Ping had already entered the 10th level of the Qi transformation realm, this was not a fight, it was clearly torture. Moreover, he also heard the hidden meaning implied by Chen Junhao's words. If Chen Ping had returned to Zhongqing City, it meant that the leader of the Mad Saber sect had also arrived in Zhongqing City. The Zhu family was doomed. What? Are you still hesitating? Do you think you have any other choices? Seeing this, Chen Junhao sneered. I can agree, but you must give me 2 hours to prepare. The Zhu family head's fingernails dug into his palms. He gritted his teeth and spat out a few words. Do you think that with your Zhu family's strength, you have the qualifications to negotiate with us? Chen Junhao mocked him. However, he soon revealed a strange smile. Forget it. How about 4 hours? I hope that when the time is up, your Zhu family will be at the city's arena on time. Otherwise, When the Zhu family head heard this, he took a deep breath. It was obvious that the Chen family intended to force their Zhu family into a dead end this time. Very good. Since that was the case, even if our Zhu family dies trying, we won't let Chen Ping have it easy. Isn't Chen Ping very strong? Isn't he the greatest pride of your Chen family? Then I'll have Zhu Peng destroy him at all costs, even if they perish together. At the thought of this, the Zhu family head's expression revealed a trace of the viciousness in his heart. Now, with a 9th-level Purple Spirit Realm cultivator present, he had absolutely no chance of escaping. He could only bring his remaining clansmen back to Zhongqing City. Moreover, he only had 4 hours left. However, the current Zhu family head had completely given up on escaping. He was thinking about how to kill Chen Ping. Why would Chen Junhao give them such a chance? The Zhu family head knew very well that this was due to Chen Junhao's vanity. Chen Ping was not only the pride of the Chen family, but also the pride of Chen Junhao. Chen Junhao had always been ambitious. Now that Chen Ping had become the disciple of the leader of the Mad Saber sect, he no longer had to hide his ambition at all. Now, he even wanted Chen Ping to stomp on Zhu Peng in front of all the cultivators in the city. To him, this was a form of pleasure. Most importantly, the Chen family could use this chance to announce to all the cultivators in the city that, from today onward, there would only be one strongest family in Zhongqing City, which was the Chen family. From Chen Junhao's perspective, how could Chen Ping lose? A 10th-level Qi Transformation Realm cultivator facing a 7th-level Qi Transformation Realm cultivator. Was that not the perfect recipe for a thrashing? Moreover, the Zhu family was doomed. They were only given 4 more hours to live. Soon, not only would Chen Ping kill Zhu Peng, but he would also marry Li Qingyan. From now on, the Chen family would become the largest family in Zhongqing City. Since the Zhu family was monitored by the elder of the Mad Saber sect, Chen Junhao did not stay idle. He directly brought Chen Ping to the Li family's residence. It was time for the marriage between the two families to be finalized. After this marriage was settled, he could bring Li Qingyan to the arena to watch Chen Ping's heroic fight. Although the Li family was somewhat hesitant, after seeing the Zhu family's outcome, they would naturally have no choice but to agree. However, when he brought Chen Ping to the Li family's residence, he was almost kicked out of the residence. The members of the Li family did not afford them the slightest courtesy. They even made it clear that the marriage alliance proposal was rejected. When Chen Junhao saw this, he could not help but laugh furiously. Good, very good. Since you refuse to accept our good intentions, then don't blame our Chen family for being merciless. He did not expect that the Li family's attitude would change so drastically within such a short period of time. He was immediately filled with anger. However, when he saw Li Jungyang, he could not help but squint his eyes slightly. The aura around Li Jungyang's body was extremely majestic. There were no signs of his previous injury at all. It was obvious that this fellow had made a full recovery. No wonder they dared to reject our Chen family's marriage alliance. However, did he really think that our Chen family was still the same pushover from before? Not only did the Mad Saber sect send a 9th-level Purple Spirit Realm Elder to oversee things, Chen Ping had even personally brought the leader of the Mad Saber sect into Zhongqing City today. He was currently resting in the Chen family's residence. So what if Li Jungyang's injuries had completely healed? Although Chen Junhao was not his match, as long as the leader of the Mad Saber sect made a move, he would be able to completely destroy the Li family in an instant. Li Jungyang, have you really thought it through? Do you really want to consign the Li family into eternal damnation? Only by choosing to marry Li Qingyan to Chen Ping can your Li family continue to survive in Zhongqing City. If you change your mind now, I will let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, you will be like the Zhu family, and will be completely wiped out from Zhongqing City. Chen Junhao said coldly. Were it not for the fact that Li Jungyang had recovered his strength, and that he was no match for the other party, he would have led his clansmen into the Li family's residence and kidnapped Li Qingyan. His precious son only had eyes for Li Qingyan. The rest of the Li family clansmen were of no value at all. Chapter 57. If you lose, you will become my slave. Why did he have to choose to marry someone from the Li family? Chen Junhao was just worried that Li Qingyan would choose the extreme option to avoid marrying Chen Ping. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So if the Li family was really stubborn, then they could only use absolute means to suppress them. First, they would kidnap Li Qingyan. Then, they would completely destroy the Li family. Chen Ping is just a playboy. He's not worthy of my precious daughter. Li Jungyang looked at Chen Ping with disgust. Everyone in Zhongqing City knew of Chen Ping's reputation as a playboy. He had used the Chen family's power and influence to ruin the innocence of countless women. Now, someone was asking him to sacrifice his daughter's happiness. Was this something he could tolerate? At the same time, Li Jungyang's heart was filled with lingering fear. He had been too muddle-headed at that time. He had actually considered sacrificing his precious daughter's happiness. This kind of person was really unworthy of his daughter. Of course, were it not for Yi Zan's appearance, he would not have had the courage to speak to Chen Junhao like this today. Perhaps, for the survival of the Li family, he might really have had to sacrifice his precious daughter's happiness. I am too incompetent as a father. Li Jungyang's heart was filled with self-blame. His previous choice would have been one that he regretted for the rest of his life. If his precious daughter really married such a flirtatious and immoral person, how would he live with himself in the future? And even if he survived the inevitable purge afterward, he would spend the rest of his life in guilt. Thinking this, Li Jungyang's heart was filled with gratitude towards Yi Zan. You said that I'm not worthy of Li Qingyan. Chen Junhao had not spoken yet, but Chen Ping could not help but interject. He took a step forward, his facial expression was as cold as ice. The vigorous spiritual power in his dantian gushed out as he said, Li Qingyan is lucky to be able to marry me, Chen Ping. I, Chen Ping, am the strongest cultivator of the younger generation in Zhongqing City. I have now joined the Mad Saber sect and become the personal disciple of the leader of the Mad Saber sect. I am already a 10th level Qi transformation realm cultivator. Within a few months, I will definitely advance into the true essence realm. Yet you think I am not worthy of Li Qingyan? How ridiculous. As he spoke, Chen Ping's face was filled with pride. With his talent and cultivation, it was obvious that Li Qingyan, that BTCH, was benefiting from this arrangement. Okay. Chen Junhao, who was beside him, also sneered. He puffed out his chest, and his expression was full of pride as he looked at Chen Ping. The thing that made him the proudest in his life was that he had given birth to such a talented son. At such a young age, his son had already reached the peak of the Qi transformation realm. He was the youngest and strongest cultivator in Zhongqing City, and perhaps even in the regions beyond. When Li Jungyang saw this, he could not help but laugh. Although Chen Ping said that his talent was not bad, did he really think that his arrogance was warranted just because he joined the Mad Saber sect? Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect was powerful, how could he be compared to an elder of the Qingyan sect? How could he be compared to Yizan? Their teachers were not on the same level, let alone their disciples. Did he really think that his 10th level chi transformation realm cultivation was very powerful? Did he really think that he could suppress the prodigies of this era? Had he ever met Elder Yizan? He had raised his disciples' realm from the 7th level of the chi transformation realm to the 8th level of the true essence realm in just a few hours. That was what it meant to be FC King Awesome, okay. Never in my lifetime have I seen such a feat. Seeing the smile on Li Jungyang's face, Chen Ping could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. Chen Junhao, who was beside him, was also so furious that his whole body was trembling. If Li Jungyang's strength had yet to recover, he would have already made a move. Very good. Didn't you say that I am not worthy of Li Qingyan? Why don't you ask Li Qingyan to come out and compete with me? I will be waiting for her in the arena in the city in 2 hours. If she can withstand 3 moves from me, I, Chen Ping, will never mention marriage again. But if she loses to me, not only will she marry into my family, but she will also have to be my slave. When I kill Zhu Peng, I will definitely slow it down for her to watch. I will let her know who is the real strong one. Chen Ping's eyes were filled with coldness. He had never been looked down upon so much. He was only 17 years old, and had already reached the peak of the chi transformation realm. Even the geniuses of the county's main city, which was even bigger than Zhongqing City, could not compare to him, what more a mere 7th level chi transformation realm girl. What gave them the qualifications to look down on him like this? Where did Li Jungyang get the confidence to say that he was unworthy of Li Qingyan? Li Jungyang, I'll see you in the city arena in 2 hours. Chen Junhao looked at Li Jungyang coldly. Without waiting for a response, he took Chen Ping and left. If Li Qingyan did not come, then things would be very simple. After the Zhu family's matter was settled, he would bring his people to destroy the Li family. Li Jungyang looked at the retreating backs of Chen Junhao and the others leaving and could not help but shake his head. This fellow was courting death. How could a mere 10th level chi transformation realm cultivator withstand an 8th level true essence realm cultivator? Qingyan probably did not even need to use a weapon. I'll inform Qing Yan about this right now. Although Elder Yi Zan is in secluded cultivation, given Elder Yi's strength, he is definitely aware of the changes happening in Zhongqing City. Moreover, Elder Yi agreed to help my Li family settle this matter. Why should I be worried about it? Thinking this, Li Jungyang could not help but smile. Then, he walked toward the training ground in the courtyard. Whether or not she agreed to the Chen family's duel request was not something he could decide. It would depend on Li Qingyan's decision. Over the past few days, Yu and Li Qingyan had been sparring in the training ground and exchanging pointers. However, when Li Jungyang told Li Qingyan about Chen Ping, she could not help but frown. He said that if I can withstand 3 of his moves he would never mention marriage again. And that if I lost I would be his slave. That guy is so arrogant. I wonder how he would react if he knew my current strength. Still, it made sense. Even within the Li family, only father and the elders knew about teacher. The outside world did not know that teacher was here in Zhongqing City. Moreover, even if Chen Ping knew that I had already become teacher's disciple, he would never have imagined that I had already advanced to the 8th level of the true essence realm. Should I accept the challenge? Thinking this, Li Qingyan looked toward Yu. She was not worried about the Chen family or Chen Ping, nor was she afraid of the so-called Mad Saber sect behind them. She was just thinking about her teacher. Her teacher was currently in secluded cultivation. If she defeated Chen Ping now and caused the leader of the Mad Saber sect to attack in advance, it might interfere with her teacher's cultivation. Chapter 58. Rules of the Martial World. Go. Defeat him. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. Just as Yu was about to speak, a voice suddenly rang out in their ears. Teacher. Hearing this, Li Qingyan revealed a pleasantly surprised look. She quickly looked around, but did not see the figure of her teacher. However, she also knew that although her teacher was still in secluded cultivation, he still paid great attention to her and her senior sister. It seemed that he could divide his consciousness while cultivating, which allowed him to still observe the situation outside. How terrifying was her teacher's strength. As everyone knew, if a cultivator was in secluded cultivation, it was extremely taboo to disturb them. After all, it was very likely to cause a distraction and lead to cultivation deviation. However, if a cultivator was still able to divide their consciousness and observe the situation outside while in secluded cultivation, it meant that the cultivator's spiritual sense was extremely powerful and that they were not afraid of any interference from the outside world. Now that she had received her teacher's instructions, Li Qingyan no longer hesitated. Father, let's accept the challenge. It's also time for them to witness the true strength of our Li family. Li Qingyan took a step forward. Her aura was domineering, and was somewhat similar to Yi Zan's. When she saw Yi Zan make a move at the auction house back then, Li Qingyan had long been attracted by his terrifying strength and domineering aura. Her heart was filled with yearning to someday possess such capabilities herself one day. When Yi Zan had said, "Who are you? How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me?" she felt tingles run up her spine. In addition, now that Li Qingyan was his disciple, it was inevitable that her style of doing things would be somewhat similar to Yi Zan's. At the same time, the news that Chen Ping and Zhu Peng were about to fight in the arena spread throughout Zhongqing City. Everyone saw the changes taking place in Zhongqing City over the past few days. It could be said that the Chen and Zhu families had been constantly fighting these few days. Moreover, the news of the Chen family slaughtering the Zhu family outside the city made them even more fearful. They did not dare to discuss the matter between the two families, afraid that it would bring disaster upon themselves. Although the city lord's mansion had a rule that the fights between families could not affect the commoners, who could guarantee that the other party would not do something crazy when they were cornered. Therefore, even if many people wanted to watch a good show between the Chen family and the Zhu family, they did not dare to get too close. They could only watch from afar. Now that they knew that Chen Ping and Zhu Peng were about to have a decisive battle, many cultivators were extremely clear about one thing. This was not an ordinary fight, but a life and death battle. Once the cultivators entered the arena, they would not rest until one of them was dead. However, curiosity was part of human nature. After learning that the two cultivators were about to have a life and death battle, countless cultivators gathered at the arena. The arena was not located in the center of the city, but in the north. It was said that the arena was built by the first city lord of Zhongqing City. After that, every generation of city lords would strengthen the arena, and there was a powerful defensive array formation covering the arena. Cultivators below the 5th level of the Purple Spirit Realm were unable to break through the defensive array formation, so this array formation could also effectively protect the spectators. The arena was originally used to host competitions between cultivators. Sometimes, if there was a huge conflict between cultivators, or if there was a deep grudge between the two, under the agreement of both parties, they could choose to duel to the death in the arena. Although the final battle had not begun, the audience seats in the arena were already full of cultivators. They were all prepared to watch a good show. Those cultivators who could not afford the tickets chose to watch the fight from outside the arena by finding a spot in or atop a nearby building. Half of the cultivators in the audience seats were only in the body refinement realm, and a small number were in the chi transformation realm. The number of true essence realm cultivators among them was pitifully few. A small handful of them had reached the purple spirit realm. Most of the cultivators were just here to watch the show. Of course, there were also many cultivators who wanted to use this opportunity to learn. Sigh, what a pity. After the arena battle ends, the Zhu family will be completely eradicated. So be it. The Zhu family were not particularly good people to begin with. Brother, you are too simple-minded. Once the Zhu family is destroyed, the next in line will be the Li family. At that time, the Chen family will completely control Zhongqing City. We cultivators will also have a hard time. Didn't the Li family and the Zhu family choose to enter a marriage alliance? How could they be destroyed? The marriage alliance is just a means for Chen Ping to get Li Qingyan. After the marriage alliance, the Chen family will definitely think of ways to slowly erode the Li family's strength and then destroy them. According to the rumors, the Li family seems to have rejected the Chen family's marriage proposal. FCK, are you sure you are not joking? What gives the Li family the confidence to reject the marriage proposal of the Chen family? What is there to joke about? My family lives near the Li family's residence. My father heard the conversation between Chen Junhao and Li Zhengyang with his own ears. Li Zhengyang said it himself, that Chen Ping is not worthy of marrying his daughter. At that time, Chen Ping was so angry that he directly proposed to fight with Li Qingyan. If Li Qingyan can survive 3 moves from him, the marriage will be cancelled. What? Chen Ping wants Li Qingyan to withstand 3 moves from him. That's right. If Li Qingyan loses, she will become the Chen family's slave. Then what did the Li family say? The Li family did not give a response. Chen Ping left directly after delivering that ultimatum. Moreover, the agreed battle time is after the duel between Chen Ping and Zhu Peng. I have no idea as to whether Li Qingyan will show up. Sigh, what's the use of coming here? The outcome has long been decided. How can a 7th level Qi Transformation Realm cultivator defeat a 10th level Qi Transformation Realm cultivator? However, if Li Qingyan doesn't come, the Chen family might directly lead their clansmen to kill their way into the Li family's residence. At this moment, the cultivators in the audience seats were having a heated discussion. Among the current younger generation of cultivators in Zhongqing City, Chen Ping is the strongest. Now that he has become the personal disciple of the leader of the Mad Saber sect, how can Li Qingyan and Zhu Peng possibly defeat him? Do you think that Zhu Peng will go to extreme measures because he knows that he will lose? He might resort to some suicidal means. This is indeed possible. If this was a normal situation, Zhu Peng might have been able to perish together with Chen Ping, but it is absolutely impossible today. What do you mean? Don't forget that the leader of the Mad Saber sect has already arrived in Zhongqing City. With a top-tier core formation stage powerhouse watching over things, what can Zhu Peng hope to achieve? Zhu Peng might not be able to do it, but if the master of the Zhu family were to fight to the death, there might still be some possibility. Damn, brother, I suddenly understand why you are standing in such a remote place in the audience stand. It turns out that you are worried that the master of the Zhu family will overhear you and get rid of you. Get lost. Don't you know the rules of the martial world? If you see through a scheme, you naturally want to expose it. Chapter 59. Oh my god, it's a fairy. Just as countless cultivators were discussing things amongst themselves, the atmosphere in the distance suddenly turned quiet. Arliss reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. When everyone noticed this, they revealed puzzled expressions. However, when they directed their gazes to the front, they discovered the reason for this. The people from the Chen and Zhu families had arrived. Everyone immediately stopped their discussion. The people from the Zhu family who came to the arena were basically the remaining top-tier forces they had. Besides the Zhu family head, only Zhu Peng and 2 family elders were left. The rest of the forces had been killed off by that elder from the Mad Saber sect. In contrast, on the Chen family's side, almost all the top-tier forces of the family were sent out. Of course, that elder from the Mad Saber sect did not appear. Obviously, he was constantly monitoring the Li family's movements. He was worried that the Li family would take this opportunity to withdraw from Zhongqing City. As expected, the Li family didn't accept the challenge. Chen Ping looked around and discovered that the beautiful figure he was thinking about did not appear. He could not help but feel a little disappointed. Humph, Li Zhengyang is quite bold. When Chen Junhao saw this scene, he revealed a cold smile. He also did not expect the Li family to ignore him even though he had the backing of the Mad Saber sect. Was there a hole in their brains or did they really want to fight to the death? No matter what, in front of a core formation realm cultivator, all resistance is futile. Although Chen Junhao appeared unfazed on the surface, he was inwardly displeased. Wait, it's the Li family. The Li family has appeared. As expected of the number 1 beauty of our Zhongqing City. Let alone Chen Ping, any other cultivator would probably also be tempted, right? Wait, who is the woman next to Li Qingyan? Why is her appearance more outstanding than Li Qingyan's? Oh my god, she's like a fairy that descended from the heavens. I have never seen a woman so beautiful. All of a sudden, the cultivators in the audience stand were thrown into an uproar. Seeing this, Chen Junhao and Chen Ping could not help but look as well. They saw Li Zhengyang and the elders of the Li family slowly walking over with Li Qingyan and the others. In addition to the people of the Li family, there were also 3 unidentified young girls. When Chen Ping's eyes fell on Li Qingyan, his eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on his face. However, when he noticed Yu, who was even more beautiful than Li Qingyan, he was stunned. Who was this woman? Why was she so beautiful? What a fairy! Chen Ping was shocked. Li Qingyan had been the number 1 beauty in his eyes, but now she was relegated to 2nd place. I told you that Li Zhengyang wouldn't have the guts to refuse our request. Seeing this scene, Chen Junhao sneered. He thought that Li Zhengyang did not dare to come over initially. Presumably, the other party had detected the presence of the elder of the Mad Saber sect and had no choice but to come. Now that everyone is here, it's time for the arena battle to begin. Chen Junhao looked indifferently at the cultivators in the audience stand and then spoke in an arrogant tone of voice. HMPH, my Chen family deserves respect and adulation. Zhu family head, this is your only chance. You all must cherish it. Chen Junhao's gaze turned toward the Zhu family as he spoke in a mocking tone. The Zhu family head's expression did not change in the slightest when he heard those words. He stood motionless with an expressionless face. Zhu Peng, who was beside him, immediately understood. He did not reply to the Chen family's taunts. However, his eyes contained a monstrous hatred. Chen family, even if my Zhu family is completely destroyed, I will make your entire family pay a heavy price. The two people slowly walked into the arena. At the same time, the defensive array formation around the arena was activated. Make your move. Chen Ping looked at Zhu Peng indifferently. The large saber in his hand emitted a sharp gleam. The power of a peak-level Qi transformation realm cultivator suddenly erupted. However, what surprised everyone was that Chen Ping actually chose to hold the saber with one hand and put the other hand behind his back. This guy was really arrogant. However, he had reached the 10th level of the Qi transformation realm at such a young age, so he indeed had the right to be arrogant. When everyone saw this scene, they could not help but think to themselves. Previously, when Chen Ping had been in the 8th level of the Qi transformation realm, Zhu Peng was not a match for him. Nothing could have possibly changed since then. After making what he thought was a very heroic pose, Chen Ping's gaze fell proudly on Li Qingyan. At the same time, he sized up you without any scruples. In his opinion, after he displayed his 10th level Qi transformation realm cultivation, the two girls would definitely have grave expressions and be extremely shocked. However, what made his expression turn ugly was that the two girls were not paying attention to him. Instead, they were smiling at each other and talking about something. When Chen Ping saw this, his face turned green with anger. You piece of trash, why aren't you making a move? What are you waiting for? Chen Ping could only vent his anger on Zhu Peng. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Zhu Peng did not respond. Instead, he slowly gathered all of the spiritual power in his body. The next second, a ball of spiritual power hidden within Zhu Peng's body shattered. Zhu Peng immediately leapt forward. He was as fast as lightning. In an instant, he charged toward Chen Ping. Be careful. When Chen Junhao saw this, his expression changed drastically. He hurriedly shouted a warning. The power that erupted from Zhu Peng's body was extremely powerful. This was not something that a 7th level Qi transformation realm cultivator should possess. Die. However, by the time Chen Junhao opened his mouth to speak, Zhu Peng had already arrived in front of Chen Ping. Chen Ping had just turned around when Zhu Peng's resentment-filled face suddenly appeared in his field of vision. He saw that power was surging from Zhu Peng's hand, which was clutching a jade slip, which suddenly shot towards Chen Ping. That jade slip contained the full power strike of a 6th level purple spirit realm cultivator. No matter how powerful Chen Ping was, he would not be able to block it, and his body would definitely be reduced to ashes. However, Chen Ping's expression did not display the slightest bit of panic. Before entering the arena, he had already expected that the other party would very likely fight to the death, so how could he not have a backup plan? In the next second, a jade slip in Chen Ping's arm suddenly shattered, transforming into an invisible energy barrier that enveloped him within. This was the jade slip that his teacher had given him. It was strong enough to block the power of a purple spirit realm cultivator. He still had 3 or 4 such jade slips. Chapter 60. Stay out of the juniors' fight. Boom. Arlise reading Omicron N Beta OX Nouvelle. So M. The jade slip that Zhu Peng was holding suddenly shattered, releasing an extremely powerful force. It was almost as if a small meteorite had exploded. That resplendent and destructive force caused everyone's hearts to shudder. At the same time, terrifying energy fluctuations spread out, and cracks appeared on the arena's array formation. It seemed like the array would shatter at any moment. Fortunately, these were only the energy fluctuations from the jade slip. If that terrifying attack was to directly hit the array formation, the array would have been destroyed. The cultivators closer to the arena saw this and heaved a sigh of relief. They had survived a disaster. FCK. Isn't this 2FC King exciting? This daddy came to watch a good show, and almost died. Before the crowd could react further, Chen Junhao angrily shouted, you guys are courting death. The crowd quickly came back to their senses and discovered that the Zhu family head and the 2 elders in the audience seats had disappeared. When they reappeared, they had already arrived in front of the nearly broken array formation. They wanted to use this opportunity to kill Chen Ping. Chen Ping relied on the protective power of the jade slip to withstand the full power attack of the 6th level purple spirit realm expert stored the jade slip earlier. However, Zhu Peng, who activated the jade slip, had been reduced to ashes. With 3 powerful purple spirit realm cultivators attacking together, even if Chen Junhao took action, he would definitely not be able to stop them. This was the Zhu family's final plan. If Zhu Peng failed, they would kill Chen Ping at all costs. The three of you, this is a battle between juniors. You guys should just stay put obediently. Just when everyone thought that Chen Ping was about to die, laughter broke out. At the same time, an incomparably terrifying spiritual pressure suddenly swept over the arena. When everyone felt it, their expressions changed drastically. Sweat dripped down from their foreheads like raindrops, and their bodies trembled. This is the terrifying spiritual pressure of a core formation realm cultivator. Although they had never seen a core formation realm cultivator before, at this moment, this single unified thought flashed through their minds at the same time. This overwhelming pressure and terrifying power that was as vast as the sea could only belong to a core formation realm cultivator. When Chen Ping was about to die, this terrifying pressure happened to appear. It was obvious that this core formation realm cultivator was the leader of the Mad Saber sect, who was also Chen Ping's teacher. When the Zhu family head and the two elders saw this, their expressions changed. Their gazes landed on a building not far away. There they saw a middle-aged man in a long green robe standing indifferently on top of the building. He then raised his eyelids slightly, and his gaze seemed to contain monstrous pressure. The Zhu family is done for. When the three of them saw this scene, they revealed expressions of despair. Under this incomparably powerful pressure, the purple spiritual power in their bodies was suddenly frozen, and their bodies were unable to move. Is this the power of a core formation realm cultivator? At this moment, the three of them had bitter expressions on their faces. They originally thought that the three of them would be able to suppress Chen Ping by going all out, but they did not expect the gap between the core formation realm and the purple spirit realm to be so large. The middle-aged man took a step forward, instantly crossing several hundred meters. He then appeared in the air above the arena. Family head, please don't interfere in the battle between juniors. The middle-aged man looked at the Zhu family head and the two elders with a smile. I dislike people who don't follow the rules the most. You guys, why don't you just die? As soon as he finished speaking, a giant palm smashed down toward the Zhu family head and the other two elders. Rumble. The incomparably powerful force of the attack turned the three of them into a bloody mist. When everyone saw this scene unfold, they trembled, and their hearts were filled with fear. Some of the more cowardly cultivators were even frightened to the point of peeing their pants. No matter what, those were still three powerful purple spirit realm cultivators, and the Zhu family head was one of the three strongest cultivators in Zhongqing City. However, he was unable to withstand a single palm strike from a core formation realm cultivator. Was this the true strength of a core formation realm cultivator? It was actually even more terrifying than the rumors. It could be said that the appearance of the leader of the Mad Saber sect had left an indelible and terrifying impression on the countless cultivators of Zhongqing City. No wonder the Chen family was so arrogant. If they had such a backer, they would probably be the same. It seemed that Zhongqing City was really going to change. Among the countless cultivators, only Yu, Li Qingyan, Huang Ling and Shui Min remained unaffected. They naturally knew very well how terrifying a core formation realm expert was. However, they had been by Yi Zan's side for quite some time. Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect terrified the cultivators of Zhongqing City, to these four, it was obvious that there was still a huge gap between him and Yi Zan. Teacher's strength definitely far surpasses the leader of the Mad Saber sect. Li Qingyan thought to herself. When they were at the auction house previously, Yi Zan had once released a terrifying pressure. The suffocation brought about by that terrifying pressure was far greater than the pressure that the leader of the Mad Saber sect was exuding. After casually killing the leader of the Zhu family, the leader of the Mad Saber sect narrowed his eyes as he looked at Yu and the others. Seeing that they were mostly unaffected, a tinge of surprise flashed across his eyes. However, what surprised him the most were the cultivation levels of Yu and the others. They were all very young, but the weakest among them had already reached the true essence realm. Although the leader of the Mad Saber sect's cultivation was not as high as Yi Zan's, mere true essence realm cultivators could not hide their cultivation levels from him. Unless Yu and the others had learned an aura concealment technique, there was no way for them to hide their cultivation levels from a core formation realm cultivator. Obviously, these people came from some sort of prestigious background. Could they be the personal disciples of some top sect who are out training in the outside world? Seeing this, the master of the Mad Saber sect could not help but think to himself. Then, he took a step forward and instantly arrived on a rooftop not far away. He paid little attention to Yu and the others. He had just arrived at Zhongqing City. As a core formation realm cultivator, he naturally could not be bothered to research what was going on in Zhongqing City. Therefore, he did not even know Li Qingyan, let alone you and the others. Continue. The leader of the Mad Saber sect said to Chen Ping with an indifferent expression. Sect said to Chen Ping with an indifferent expression. Sect said to Chen